fighting. Red strobe lights accompany somewhat obnoxious alarm sound all around the college. The party quickly dissolves as you were leaving with the well-trained staff running to man emergency posts throughout the facility. The three of you, along with Carrie and two other coursers from her team, are racing by the director back to her office. Turn it down a little bit. Whatever nullifying effect that she had placed over the communications from the Stones of Far Speech has been cancelled, because you can hear Oliver's panicked attempts to explain himself during this controlled mad dash back to the admin offices. His nasally one complains, I'm sorry, I was just experimenting, I was trying to figure out how we can control these things. But the director cuts him off with a curt reply, Oliver, enough, just as the six of you round the corner and enter into your destination. She scurries back behind her desk, barely pausing before continuing. She's saying this, the Eidrillium he has used is called the Codicus Ring. It can transmute any material into literally any other material. In the wrong hands, it could bankroll armies, or, as in this case, it could turn an entire planet into solid crystal. That's what she referred to. You hear Oliver pipe up over the stones again. He says, listen, it's not me who's doing this, okay? Yes, I found the Codicus Ring, and I was doing some experiments with the help of the college, and maybe my grasp outreached any sort of scientific, ethical boundaries, but yes, okay, I'll give you that, but something has taken over the ring, and it's used it to turn the exterior of my lab into crystal. And something, I don't know, something specifically, it turned it into solid pink tourmaline, and whatever's channeling that relic is somehow still using it, meaning that everything that the gem touches is going to turn... It's going to get all King Midas, or it's going to get coated in gemstone. So, and he's obviously very confused and hastily kind of throwing all this information out. Very panicked situation, of course. He says, I don't know what has taken over the stone, but right now I'm trapped in my own offices because I can't. Because right outside is a crystallized room. I mean, all right, look, my lab is separated into different chambers by airlocks, which keep the whole facility from getting all tourmalined, but unfortunately the entire exterior of the base is covered in what is essentially this virulent crystal. And the arcane thrusters on my lab, they can't compensate for the extra weight, so I'm sinking. And if the lab touches the moon or the planet below, we're all toast. The crystal will spread and kill everyone and everything. Before we proceed there, do you guys have questions? Outside, like, do you guys understand what's happening there?
Yeah, I think so.
You understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing turned somebody's turning it into, or the ring on its own is turning the lab into crystal on the outside.
Yeah. So
and now it can't fly away. So.
Well, he was okay. He has you have it, but just to clarify a bit there too, he has the ring. This ring specifically is for transmutation. It's intended to turn something into something else, and whatever he was doing, something took it away from him. He's not sure what, as he's described it, but something took it away from him and has used it to start turning every material around it into this pink crystal. But it's virulent, so everything that crystal touches also turns into crystal, and then that one touches something else, and it just goes on down the line until everything is this expanding crystal. He continues, he says, by my calculations, we've got about 82 minutes before I touch down, and that's going to be very, very bad for life, so I need you all to get up here and rescue me, and help me get this ring back before, so I can undo what's been done, and stop the world from being crystallized. He pauses for a moment, and you see the director's face is very, obviously very angry and frustrated, but she hasn't spoken up yet. He says, I have an idea, but I will need Elizabeth's approval. And the director interjects. She says, Oliver, stop doing that. It's Madam Director. He says, okay, Madam Director, I think you're going to need to use the null crowns we made, and I'm going to need them to bring me one too. The director murmurs an incantation, and you see her earpiece glow that faint blue again. To the three of you, she says, despite what you just heard, there we go. She says, despite what you just heard, your mission falls under normal parameters. Ketis, Navarra, Peter, you're in charge of retrieving the artifact, not Oliver. Do not let him anywhere near it. And she turns to the other three, Carrie's team that had followed you in. She says, Carrie, Andre, Sophie, turning to the coursers that are next to you, I'm sending you in to detain and extract Oliver for his abuse of confidential information. Standard protocol applies if he makes a move for the ring, and Carrie interjects slightly. She just nods. She says, got it. For Ketis and Navarro, roll a wisdom check.
Is it alright if I cast the detect thoughts on the director right now?
Sure. What level is that? I need to see the info.
It's a level 2 divination.
That takes money. What is the material component? A copper piece. Yeah, you have that for sure. So for the duration, you can read the thoughts of certain creatures. When you cast a spell, keep in mind it will be obvious that that's what you're doing, because it's verbal, somatic, and material. So you basically just put a hand in a pocket. You would grab a coin with your free hand. You'd have to make motions with it, and you'd need to say something out loud. It doesn't have to be loud, but it will be obvious to everyone else in the room that you're casting a spell. But anyways, for the duration, you can read the thoughts of certain creatures. When you cast a spell as your action, on each turn until the spell ends, you can focus your mind on any one creature that you can see within 30 feet. Tell it blah blah blah, that doesn't matter. Surface thoughts of the creature. You can shift it for an action. And you can probe deeper. Okay, so you get the surface thoughts automatically. If you probe deeper, you could potentially get more information, but they have to fail a wisdom saving throw to get more information from them. So you're just going surface thoughts?
I'm actually going to probe a little deeper if I am close enough to the director. Are we 30 feet?
Oh, yeah. It's a small office. There isn't that much room. So initially, you make these murmured incantations trying to, keep it somewhat quiet to yourself there. And you immediately hear that she is nervous in a sense that you've never gotten from her before. She's never she's never outwardly expressed any kind of nervousness at all. In fact, she's almost perpetually calm, just permanently calm. But there's definitely a sense of nervousness there, a little bit of panic, and you get the emotional sense of a little bit of let's see, what would be a good word for it? Regret, almost. Like this is a situation that she wouldn't be happy to be in this anyway, but not just the panic of the situation that it's so dangerous and that everybody here could die, but also regret specifically. You're not necessarily getting why yet. What is your DC for that? Let me find you.
DC 17, I think. Wisdom save.
For most things it is. I'm not sure if it's the same for this. Where it says it's yeah, never mind. It would be just your normal DC. Okay, so she needs to make a 17. You try, and she, as soon as you have casted this one, she kind of just turns and looks at you just briefly because she noticed that you were casting a spell. But when you try to probe any deeper for more than that, she turns towards you again and gives you a very stern look. It's obvious that she knew what you were trying to do, but she passed her save. She got a 22. She's very high wisdom anyway. So you're not getting anything further, but you've gotten kind of the surface level emotions and what she's reacting to there. For the wisdom checks from Ketis and Nivara, mark off your spell slot too. For Ketis, you specifically remember the purpose of these coursers because you've had a little more time with Carrie and you know exactly what her job is supposed to be. Does Ben remember what the courser's job is?
No, sorry.
Okay. Becky, do
A
you
little
remember?
minor, probably give me the courser.
No.
Okay, so specifically what their job is... Okay, cool. Sorry, I was checking work. What her job is, and her team, they're the only ones left that are field agents, basically, is if somebody uses a Nidrillim out there, their job is to go in and get them, and most of the time they have to kill that person.
Yeah, okay.
And usually those are people that are part of the college, because most of the time if somebody's out there, basically if you guys... If other hunters like you guys went out there, or seekers, find one and then try to use it, the coursers have to go out and take care of it, basically their cleanup crew. So what the director was telling Carrie, and that's why she said got it, is that she has to go in, find Oliver, and if he tries to get the ring or tries to do anything with it, that they have to kill him. That's what she was saying.
Right.
They just weren't using those words, but you kind of intuit that because you knew those things. Peter, you haven't worked with the coursers before. I mean, you knew who they are, but you didn't necessarily know what the different field agent positions did, so that's why I didn't have you roll that save. All right. But the director continues. She says, listen, I know Oliver fairly well. We've worked together when we founded the college. I brought him in specifically as a consultant to help. We wouldn't have been able to do the things we do here if it weren't for his scientific innovations. I mean, everybody to some extent knows his family. I mean, the Miller family. They're a long lineage of inventors and scientists responsible for the most technomantic advancements in our world. I mean, if you've ever been on an elevator, certainly you know the Miller family's work. She says to you guys, she says, leave the detainment to the coursers, nodding at Carrie's team, but if it comes down to it, I really hate to say this, but look, when we built this place, I couldn't convince Oliver to join in full, and now I'm starting to think that maybe this has been his plan all along. Maybe he's been, ferreting away the information that our seekers have been gathering and this confidential information that I've been sharing with him under the premise that we would be, getting his help in return. She kind of lowers her head slightly. She's just staring at her desk. She says, you have to bring him back to me so that I can... She leans over to the one side towards the door to her private office. She says, Drew, come in here, please. And you see that small human. This time he's still dressed in his Candlenight's attire, which is a bright, garish reds and greens, with a puffy white fake beard and a tall, conical red hat. I'm Drew, he says when he walks in. For Peter, Drew is the director's ever-present assistant. He's almost always around when she is. He never says more than his own name. He appears to understand perfectly normally, but maybe he's got some kind of head trauma or something like that. All he ever says is his own name. She says to him, she says, please gather the Knoll Crowns and bring them in. Drew nods and turns back in. The director continues, you'll each wear one. They're designed to nullify magical energies of a particular field, in this case transmutation, in a small radius that surrounds your body. This unfortunately means that outgoing transmutation spells will be similarly nullified, so keep that in mind. Drew steps back in and passes out these plain-looking steel rings. They're each about a foot in diameter, but he leans up and places one around each of your heads. Everyone except Navarre, you kind of have to kneel down a bit to let him reach because he's not very tall. These steel rings shrink down in size, though, as you pass your brow, until they fit snugly over your ears. You each feel a slight tingle as the effect passes through you, and your skin takes on kind of a dim sheen that occasionally shows rivulets of light that pass through it. These are technically attunement items, but you guys aren't over your attunement limit, so it doesn't matter. There's not a concern there unless you try to attune something mid-game, which you wouldn't have time for, so it wouldn't matter. The director says, gather whatever supplies you need and hurry to the airlock. By Oliver's estimate, we have about 75 minutes before that crystallite lab crashes back down to the moon and turns us all to tourmaline. Alright. Okay. Anything you guys need to do as far as prep? Is there anything you wanted to pick up or anything like that? Or are you just ready to go straight to the airlock?
Do you need any arrows, honey? And I'm going to cast my false life on myself.
Okay.
Yeah, looks
How
like I
long?
need 30.
Go ahead and you can just restock them. The place is in kind of an emergency lockdown, but the front door to Fantasy Costco is wide open, so you're able to just run in and grab them. They're usually right, nearby the door anyway. So you run in and grab those. Ketis is running off towards the airlock. How long does your false life last?
Let me see.
And does that take a slot?
No, it's a
Cantrip? Oh, that's your
that's
warlock.
a warlock thing. Yeah,
Okay. That's one of your
an hour.
invocations. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, 75 minutes, you'll probably still have that the whole time. Or have a chance to let it burn off anyway. I'm sure I can hit you with something to waste those temporary HPs.
Oh, I'm sure. And I'll just use them again if I can.
Alright. So you guys gather at the airlock there. Uh-oh. There it is. You're all gathered and prepared when you reach the airlock. Rodalt nods as you enter. His face is really solemn, and there's kind of a striking dichotomy to his cheery Candlenight's garb. He says, the director gave me the details. I'm afraid I don't really have a plan to get you up there. It's still floating, thankfully, but if we tethered a rope or anything, that virulent crystal would just climb on down it and fry us all. So, I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to throw you there, but I mean, the gravity's weak enough we can do it, but if we miss... And he kind of trails off awkwardly. He says, what do you want to do? So where you're at is you guys are standing in an airlock. You can step out of the airlock and you'll be on the surface of the moon. There's just a field in front of you that you just walk right through. And you'd be on the surface of the moon up here, which is the big white moon, Idris. But up above you, and it's only floating probably 35 feet up above, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a 3.5 story building. So, I mean, it is a ways up, but the gravity's weak enough that you can, if you get enough of a shove, basically, you should be able to float your way up there. Problem, of course, is that if you miss, you're toast. So what do you guys want to do? Hey, what is your plan to get up there?
Well, I'm sure I could probably give Navarre like a little shove up, and that might get her moving in the right direction.
Or I
If you
could
wanna
just
give it a
like
try.
turn into a giant eagle and see if I can't carry your ass up there.
Oh, that's true. You got to get Peter too, though.
Yeah. But
One
I
at a
can
time, I'm
do-
assuming.
Yeah, maybe one at a time.
Okay.
He Probably. I mean, there's enough.
Can you
There's
fly?
enough gravity. Well, I mean, it's less gravity
With
than
the
Earth,
gravity?
and an
Okay.
eagle could fly in Earth's gravity, so it could definitely fly in moon gravity.
Okay.
That would work, because 35 feet isn't that high up. An eagle can definitely go that high. Sure. I mean, that would probably work as far as a plan, if you wanted to give that a shot.
Why not?
All right, go ahead and mark off one of your uses there. You're not going to rage. You're just going to. You're not going to be a raging bird. You're just going to be a regular bird.
Yeah.
You don't want to rage on the way up there?
No, because I'll probably have to drop it once we get up there. We have to go inside.
That's true.
Might not fit through the airlock up there. So you guys, you step your way out, and it's so these null suits that were or null crowns rather that were put over you. I didn't give you a thorough description for them because I didn't want to waste too long in the preamble there. But basically, you have kind of a thin layer. It's only about an inch or so away from your skin that surrounds your whole body. That any transmutation that tries to pass through it is nullified, and that also means outgoing. So any wild shape is not a spell, so technically it would still work. You're still fine. It wouldn't think, but because it's a class ability and not a transmutation spell, then it would still work. But it also, there is a thin atmosphere, by the way, on Intrus, so meaning that you can still breathe out there, you just can't stay out there for very long. There's still a very thin breathable atmosphere as long as you're not out there for more than a few minutes at a time. It's not something, basically if you're walking between the different parts of the facility outside, you wouldn't necessarily need to bring like a spacesuit or something like that. So what you guys are wearing isn't a change to your clothing, it's just basically like an aura surrounding you that disables the transmutation. So you kind of step out, hold your breath for a second just to give yourselves long enough. You take a moment and kind of flex your lats out and these obnoxiously large, especially out here, golden brownish wings just fling out of them, and you kind of over the span of a half second or so transmute into this giant bird. Logistics, how are you going to carry two people? What's your plan there? I mean, you've changed shape. You're now this giant bird, and you're just kind of flapping your wings once every 6 seconds, let's say, because if you did it more faster than that, you're going to end up taking off, just because there's not enough gravity to really resist you. So I mean, you're hovering in place. Go ahead.
I figured I'd just try to grab one at a time.
In your talons.
One
Yeah,
at a
so I
time.
pick one up, take them up there, come back and grab the other one.
Roll. We'll just use your own stats for this as opposed to changing it, for this quick use. But roll a sleight of hand. Roll it twice. Well, roll it once first, and we'll go over the results and do it again.
Ah, damn.
Wow.
That was bad.
All right. Well, with that as bad as it is, it would have been your kind of initial attempt, which would have not been, let's take this life-changing or life-risking attempt on the first try. So you kind of, as you're flapping your wings trying to grab them, you're just having trouble, getting the claws to stick. You're trying to grab Ketis first or Peter first?
I guess Ketis.
Peter, what are you doing? You just standing around out on the moon?
Yep, just hanging out with the
chilling
cat, waiting for you guys. Yep.
Toki's probably still safe, but you probably wouldn't want to leave him out in the atmosphere for too long either. But he's just chilling, walking around your feet. Then you got him up on your shoulder or what?
Yep, just perched on the shoulder and then just keeping an eye on him, making sure everything's all right.
Okay. All right then. So Navarre, you kind of you're occasionally, almost rarely really, which feels very just awkward in itself at how rarely you're flapping your wings to hold yourself in place, because you flap them once and you actually lift way too far off, and you kind of have to wait a second for yourself to lower back down while you just hold your wings up. So you're breathing right into the mic. Can you turn it a little bit?
Hey, better.
Yeah. Yep, you're good now. And then as you kind of lower yourself down, you try to grab him with your claws there. I'm going to give you advantage on it just because you guys had I already removed them, but you still had it from last time, and you hadn't used it where Ben did, so go ahead and roll that sleight of hand one more time.
Hey.
So you try to grab him again, and your claws are just raking off of the plate that he's wearing. He bought a breastplate of a couple months back, and you're just not able to really catch a hold of him. Like you feel like if you were to dig in, you're gonna end up having to hurt him to be able to pick him up, or they're just kind of raking right over the steel and not catching anything. It doesn't look like that's gonna work.
Let's see, it's all your fault.
Like, you could keep trying, but you'd probably end up having to hurt him to carry him up. If that, basically, if that sleight of hand roll was better, I would let you just carry him. But because it's not, you're gonna have to hurt him to be able to carry him up. Meaning, stab your claws into him to be able to lift him, or come up with a different means of him, being attached. So, what do you guys want to do?
Probably too big to sit on me.
Yeah, how big is the eagle? Like a standard size eagle.
No, it's supposed to be a giant eagle.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really big. I think it's. Let me look up the stats real quick for you. I would have had it in your page already. I just didn't get around to it. It's a large beast. It'd be big enough for one person. I mean, as heavy as Ketis is, it would be slow. Basically, if we were earthbound, carrying Ketis would be difficult, and I would say you definitely would be at disadvantage of moving slow. But up here with reduced gravity, I think you could carry one person up on your back at a time.
I'll see if I can carefully get up on there and stay out of the way of her wings. And
Okay. Roll on Ketis. Just roll a simple strength check, I guess.
Just a question: how far away is the thing above us? How many feet?
It's about 35 feet up, and it's floating there and slowly lowering down. Basically, as he described it, the crystals that are growing, the crystals growing on top of itself as well. So the crystals are making it heavier and heavier and heavier, which is making it sink slowly. But so Ketis, she kind of, Navarre lands and is now just sitting in the dust of the moon surface there, and you kind of carefully, move yourself up and hold on. You try to wrap your arms around the neck of this giant eagle, but it's just too big. But you're able to kind of hold yourself on there, and Navarre, you kind of just give one good flap of the wings, and you end up going up about 12 feet, maybe 13 feet, and flap again, and you kind of lift yourself up and off towards this thing. You look up at the lab above. You can see that there's an airlock up there that you can kind of potentially reach up to. Over the stones, as you guys are doing this, you hear Oliver pipe in as you guys are kind of halfway towards the lab there. And Peter, you're just on the surface watching them fly up, which is kind of a weird thing, seeing a bird fly through space, but this is what you're watching. But over the stones, you hear Oliver pipe in. He says there's a few points of entry. I mean, you could conceivably get up to the base through, but your best bet is the airlock on the top floor. And as he's saying this, Peter, where you're standing, Carrie, Andre, and Sophie, the Coursers team, come walking out behind you. And it looks like they've decided what they were going to do, but there's a small, they're not very big, but there's these tiny, like escape pod type things. They're basically a small dome, or a small ball rather, but there's just no real propulsion method for them. So they've figured out what they're going to do, and it sounds like they're kind of getting themselves ready to go. But anyways, as he's continuing, he says you'll best bet is the airlock on the top floor. Once you're inside, you can make your way down to the bottom floor. You'll find my quarters where I'm holed up. I mean, you're gonna have to go through some of my lab facilities to get there though. And if you can power them down as you go, I'll be able to free up some power, which I can channel back to the thruster and buy us a little more time. And he's kind of still panicking, which you guys are, in the middle of this somewhat scary moment for yourselves. As his complaints are insignificant compared to that. But you kind of carefully make your way up there, and Navarre, you land at the edge of the airlock there. What do you describe? Basically the top. So this lab, you guys are looking at the bottom of the lab basically. So you've kind of flown yourself not just 35 feet up to where the lab would be, but up another 30 or so feet up to the top of this lab, and you land on the edge of this airlock. So Ketis, you hop off and go inside the airlock.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so the room in there, we'll get to that shortly, but the room is covered in crystals. Everything is just crystallized. We'll get to that in a second, but you just, you're kind of holding yourself still, just not wanting to touch anything. And Navarre, as you're flying back down to the surface to get Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you're flying back down, you see that Carrie and her team are inside one of these bubbles, and it's been shot off of the surface somehow. It's not moving very fast. In fact, it's going really slowly, and you kind of pass it. You're flying faster than it is, and you kind of pass it. But as you're just getting past it in a little ways, down below, there's a kind of a crack and then a small boom sound coming from behind you from the lab, and you look up and you see a big chunk of crystal has fallen off of that and is spinning through the air, and it looks like it's about to hit their ball. It's just rotating, slowly through space, rather, and is going to impact them. It's moving slowly, but they don't have any way of changing where they're going. So, I mean, you're seeing that over your corner, or over your shoulder, rather.
Do I have enough time to like go bump them out of the way?
Roll a quick initiative. If you get above a 10 on initiative, I'd give you an opportunity to do something.
Oh.
2 natural ones right at the start. That's a good start there. You don't. They're inside this orb, and they have the same suits you do, so that the crystal isn't going to hit them, or isn't going to hurt them necessarily. Meaning you're aware of that because you saw them put their same crowns on. But you kind of turn around and you just don't have time to react. You see this chunk of crystal that is slowly rotating its way towards them, crashes into the ball. It knocks the ball off of its trajectory or where it was intending to go, but more importantly, more than that, as soon as it impacts it, the ball is immediately just has this spreading virulent pink rather that just starts to cover it until you can't see inside the orb anymore. You do see Carrie's panicked face for just a brief moment over your shoulder. But their orb is now spinning. It was sitting relatively still, but it's now spinning as well with them inside of it. Still heading towards the lab, but it is not going to hit at the airlock where you guys were intending to go. It looks like it's aiming off towards the side, so maybe it'll still maybe they'll still be okay. But you don't really have too much time to think about that because you're already at the surface where Peter is. So what are you doing?
I guess picking up Peter and taking him up there.
Roll a strength check on Peter. So go to your main tab, Sako, and then on the left side where it says abilities, double click on the one that says strength, or STR anyway.
Yep, got it.
You have no trouble with this. I mean, it's flying on birds isn't necessarily your thing, but it's probably something you'd be more comfortable doing than somebody like Ketis who's spent most of his life on a farm up to this point, but. Military thing, you might have had an experience or two that was similar to this, for a 35-year military career. But you hop up on the back of this giant eagle, you wrap your arms around, you kind of this is a tense moment for sure, but you're really not as nervous as you otherwise might be. Checks are fine. Navar, you flap your wings again, and kind of 2-3 good flaps, and you've made your way back up to it. On your way back up, roll a perception check on Navar. I didn't give you Carrie's team's descriptions. You see a small impact that you didn't hear anything, but obviously the sound is a little bit lessened up here since the atmosphere is so thin. The sound doesn't travel quite as well. But you on your way back up see where you think the orb must have impacted because you didn't notice it before on the way up when you were taking Ketis up, but there's a kind of a chunk of a corner of it basically that has some impact damage that you didn't notice the first time. You're not 100% sure, but you think it probably is where they hit. And you don't see the orb anymore. You don't see the kind of pod that they were in. By the way, her team, Andre is a male dwarf, just a Mistian hill dwarf, a surface dwarf. Smooth pate, he's got a scarred face where his beard would be. He doesn't have any beard, it's just all scarred. Bushy blonde eyebrows. Sophie is from Kreisau, which is like a deserty kind of a Russia, a tundra kind of a Russia. Female human, bright red hair. You've seen her plenty of times before. She seems like she's sober, but always smells like alcohol, like stale alcohol. Like it smells gross, like she just doesn't shower. But you haven't worked with either of them before, but you've seen them around the campus plenty of times. So anyways, you guys have now made your way back up, though, and you are inside the airlock, all three of you. Navarre, you drop your bird shape?
Yeah.
All right. So this lab is disastrous. Every surface in here is coated in sharp, briny pink crystals. Turn it down a bit. Audio levels on some of these are not equal, so There we go. Sharp, briny pink crystals. Your footfalls are each met with an echoing crunch, sending crystalline dust up into small puffs into the air. The floor, the walls, the ceiling, chairs, consoles, crates, doors, everything. It's almost blindingly pink. There's a certain crisp feeling in the air too, as if there's the air that you're walking through. It's almost like you're breaking tiny microscopic minerals that are just floating in the air just by walking through them. And that movement through it is making this kind of crinkling sound constantly as you're moving. As every time you step past it, you're hearing this crinkling in your ears as these tiny crystal and airborne crystals are breaking as you're walking through it. As you're kind of finishing taking measure of your surroundings, though, you hear your new halfling remote support Ango speak up over the stones. He says, "Guys, be careful in there. According to the psych profile I've drawn up, based on what the director has told me about Oliver, he's a pretty reckless individual. I mean, I'm willing to bet his experiments aren't really above board safety-wise. I'm going to show you guys a map here. This might take a second to download. Let me know when it shows up for you."
There it is.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to drop you on it. Peter, you got Toki with you?
Yep, still on the shoulder.
Okay. I'm not gonna put him on the map when he's just kind of with you, like on your shoulder or something. But in the event that you need to, we can always drop him on there. Just tell me if you need me to. So the part that's blanked out, since Sako hasn't seen these yet, are uncovered. Basically, it's areas you guys haven't seen yet. I can uncover it as you guys move around. So across this cargo bay of sorts, though, you see something that catches your eye. Everything else is covered in pink, and I don't have that represented in the map. And as far as the crystallized stuff isn't covering the map, but it is there, just that it's not reflected on the map is all. But anyways, across this little cargo bay, the only thing that isn't this pink is something that doesn't have this kind of pink hue that everything else around you has. You actually see a very faint, tiny white circle of light, and you can see it's a ring of light basically, and there's something metal inside it that is not crystallized. What are you guys doing?
Okay, where's that at?
It is
From where we are?
Let me draw an arrow for you. It's about there.
Okay. And first thing I want to do is look around. It doesn't seem like anything's moving or anything in here, right?
Roll a perception. Investigation, sorry. And Sako, like I was telling you the other day, feel free to interrupt at any time. That's good. Just because I'm narrating, don't assume that that means that you shouldn't talk. So if there's something you want, if there's something Peter would be doing in the moment, especially in a hectic moment, then by all means just say so.
Yeah, I kind of want to check for traps or check for anything out of the ordinary with perception.
It would be investigation also, so go ahead and roll an investigation. You both look around, and you kind of, as you're kind of taking quick assessment of the place, you both kind of look at each other and nod a little bit, like you're both coming up with a similar assessment that you don't see anything else moving, but behind that ring, you're seeing metal in there that is moving.
Okay.
So there's a floating ring of light that's about eye level, maybe shoulder level, really, where that arrow is, and inside that, it's a ring that's about probably a foot across, like a foot in diameter, and you're seeing metal inside of it that is not crystallized, that is moving inside that ring.
And that's just floating in the air, or is it like on the wall?
Nope, it's floating in the middle of the air.
Okay.
As far as you can tell from this distance, it's a little hard to be sure, but the place is lit up. There's still plenty of light, and the crystals that cover everything give you enough kind of ambient light that anything that isn't pink stands out very clearly.
Can I tell if it's making a noise or anything, or is it just floating, just an inanimate metal object?
There is there's so much surrounding ambient noise because of this constant crinkling sound that you're hearing in your ears, that every time you even just rotate, like every time you just turn your head, you're hearing it crinkle again. Like even if you turn it left and then turn right and then turn back to the left again, you still hear it again, like it's just recrystallizing in the absence of where your head was. So there's kind of a lot of noise in the background that is kind of distracting you. Go ahead and roll perception, but roll it with disadvantage because of the noise, because of the ambient noise. So bottom left corner, where there's the ADV and DIS, DIS, so that's a disadvantage. and then on your skills tab, go to your perception and double click it. And as long as the dis is lit up, then it'll roll it with disadvantage. There you go. Natural 1. You're so distracted by this constant noise. You're not hearing anything, but you're not sure if it's because of the distracting noise or because there's just nothing there.
All right, that looks to be about 50 feet. Can I throw Toki out there and have Toki run out there and just to kind of see what's going on?
Yeah. So you're just commanding him to go look at the portal there?
Yeah, just see if he can get any information from it.
Sure. You can look through his eyes and see through his eyes, but if you do that, Peter, who's standing there, will not have those senses. So you can use his perceptions, basically, but you'll have to stand there like deaf and dumb. You won't be able to hear anything from coming from around you or see anything that's coming from around you. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, it's just a quick peek and run back.
Okay. Peter's standing there, and you see his little Snow White cat with the green eyes go kind of carefully patting over this. Okay, so Toki is not wearing one of these Null crowns, but he is a Fey creature, and I would just for simplification of the rules here, I would say that he is not affected by it. He probably would be, but just because he's in this sense, he isn't really natural. If he was an actual cat, he would be crystallized and die immediately. But in this case, we'll just assume that he's not affected by this, and that he can walk across the floor that's covered in crystals, and he's not affected by it. But anyways, so you see his cat begin to walk out, and Peter standing next to you. He kind of just reaches a hand over, and you feel his hand kind of settle on your shoulder. And you look over at this, feeling his hand there on your shoulder, and you look over, and his eyes have kind of just gone kind of a milky white. There's nothing in them, and he's just kind of standing there, head kind of down a little bit, not really there. You understand what's happening. You get into it, what's happening here. But you're basically seeing, him just standing there kind of almost catatonic, basically, while he's just kind of holding on your shoulder to keep from falling over. Peter, you see, as he gets closer and closer, through his eyes, now he's looking up at quite an angle, because these are, of course, about shoulder head height with a human, and from Toki's eyes, way down close to the ground there, when he's getting closer and closer, you at first, both of you guys thought that the movement was the metal moving, inside this ring of light. But as he's getting closer, you can see that that's not what's happening at all. Especially because he's so low to the ground, you're looking at a ceiling through this. So you're looking through a ring, and as he's moving closer, you begin to realize that it isn't an uncrystallized metal that's moving. The white circle itself looks like it's some kind of a portal or window to somewhere else where the virulent crystals are not. So just a place that's not crystallized. Now you're seeing metal through that window and portal, but it's just the surroundings of the room. It's not something that was moving inside of it so much as that every time you turned your head slightly, you were looking through a window into a different place. And that metal was maybe, chairs or things in the background or whatever that were behind that window. But as Toki's getting closer, you're seeing kind of, as he gets closer and closer, you're seeing the window, the angle of it move till he's looking basically up at the ceiling of whatever place is through there. But how close is he getting?
About 10 feet away, 5 feet away, just close enough he needs to just see what it is.
Okay. When he gets that close, he's getting to the point where the window isn't rotating. It's a flat circle, and it's not turning down towards him, so he's basically cutting off his angle that he can see through it a little bit, but it doesn't matter. As he gets a little bit closer there, that crinkling sound in the air is getting louder and louder surrounding you guys. You see from this distance, Kitas and Evara see this. Peter, you see this directly in front of you. You see in front of Toki there, something appears in the portal window, and actually because Toki's close enough, he can tell what it is, and you, Peter, can identify it. It looks like a bit like a four-legged spider, like a crustacean spider, kind of, with its legs are being held shut by something, like there's an invisible hand that's holding it. It comes out through the tiny portal and is now floating in front of the portal, directly right above Toki. And then the legs open up, like whatever was holding it has now dropped it. This little tiny, it's a, I mean, for a spider it would be big. It'd be the size of like a big crawdad, but it looks like a four-legged spider kind of. Anyways, this thing has whatever it was with it inside there, though, has dropped it, and this small creature falls unceremoniously down to the crystal floor, and it's all of a sudden just an explosion of pink crystals as it grows and grows. So basically, as soon as it hits the ground, there was this puff. The same way that your footfalls are kind of setting up these puffs of pink crystal. Same thing happened with this impact, but it is immediately crystallized and is growing and growing, just covered in these crystals until it's just this massive creature that's filling up a big portion of this room back there. Toki is not. In fact, roll a dex save. You don't have his stats. I'll roll it for you. I think I'll end up just giving you a sheet that is Toki's sheet, and you can roll your stuff for him. In fact, what I'll do is I'll give you his modifier, and you can roll it for him in the meantime. His dex is a 15, so his modifier would be 2. Yeah, still 2. Roll a d20 and add 2. Need to be to 12.
Okay, so just hit +2 and drop a d20 then.
Yep. You could just manually. I mean, if we just rolled, so you rolled an 11, I could just say, the 2 is a 13. But yeah, those little buttons in the bottom left, if you had the +2 highlighted, then that would have rolled it with the modifier. But that's a 13, so you beat the number that you needed. I said it was a 12, right? The DC.
I think so.
So this kind of four-legged crustacean spider thing just kind of explodes in crystals surrounding Toki. But Toki hops his way out of this kind of spiked leg that just slams him to the ground right next to him, sending up this shower of crystal and dust in front of him. But he's hopped out of the way. He is not in the way anymore, but this dangerous creature is right next to him. Roll a quick nature check on Navarro. Sharing you an image. That's about what you're seeing, except he's covered in pink crystals. You recognize this thing is called a karka. They are kind of minor nuisances, like a crab almost, around coastal territories, but they're not. They're basically an insect that you would find in coastal territories, but they're not normally big, and they're not normally covered in pink crystals. But he definitely looks angry and is immediately kind of this fanged vertical mouth is about at eye level, is kind of obviously confused and is now howling and is beginning to charge your direction. Go ahead and roll initiative.
All right, do I have to do that staff thing?
Yep. For Paratus, yeah. Damn, he rolled really high.
All right, I apologize. And then the initial.
Go to your main page. You're fine. Don't worry about it, dude. It's going to take a little time for you to get used to the UI, or it's not I'm sure Ben and Becky don't care.
That's the center INIT, right?
Yep, that's it. The initiative thing didn't work. The advantage on initiative thing didn't apply it. Do this, just roll another d20. It should have, and it didn't. It's not your fault. You had it on there the way that's supposed to be, so I'll fix that later. I'll make notes of that. Go ahead and just roll initiative again. I'm going to make a note to fix that for you before next game. Alright, so we'll go with the 14. Roll it one more time, and this time it's going to be for Toki, because he does have his own initiative.
Nice.
Fix Paratus for Peter. Peter has a special staff that has a bunch of alertness kinds of features to it. In fact, the way you guys had a handful of special items, I let him kind of buy a couple that he would have acquired in his time up here, and that was one of the ones he chose. So. All right, just that he was on parity with you guys and not underpowered, since you guys are crazy underpowered. What's that?
Did I have one of those items that allows me to roll 2 numbers and I could use them during battle or something?
Oh, yeah, sorry, we needed to do your... Yep, that's called portent. So you need to roll 2 more d20s, and this time they're going onto your portent. So you see, if you scroll up to the top of your actions page, you'll see it under Wizard. It'll say portent, and they're 7 and 15. Now, these are things you would have done at the beginning of the day. So narratively, this happened this morning. You in your bunk, basically, before you guys went out today to the Candle Knights party. It's called rolling the bones. You basically have this set of 6 kind of carved chicken bones, like the size of a chicken bone, size and shape, but they're carved, and they have runic symbols all over them. And you take this 6 of them, and they're in a bag. You kind of shake them around in the bag, and then you open the bag and throw them on the floor. And where they land and how they're arranged tells you how your day is going to go, essentially. Go ahead and roll a d20 twice, or roll 2 different, roll a d20, and then roll another one, not like advantage-wise. There you go. Okay, that was a d12 actually, so grab another one.
That was a good roll.
Yeah, 12. He rolled it. Was that a... I think those are both d12s, dude. Grab the other one. Grab the d20 is the far left one. And if you've lost your dice, you can always right-click on the desktop, just anywhere blank in the desktop, and then the left option is arrange dice, and that'll put them all back in order for you. There you go, and then do it again. Alright, so you get a 10 and a 4, not very good rolls. What those are, and I'm updating your portent right now, what those are for Peter is, if you go to your wizard section there.
Yep, got it.
See, it says 4 and then 10. That's not 4 out of 10, it's 4 and 10. Basically, what you can do is anytime throughout today, if you roll a d20 and you don't like the roll, you can swap it out for one of those numbers. So if you rolled a 5 on something and you decided you wanted it to be the 10 instead, then you can swap it out and use that 10. And you can do that any day. Every single day you got to roll those. So every morning, basically, when you get up, you roll those bones. And depending on how they lay out, that tells you what these numbers are, and you save those 2 numbers for any time during the day. They're both kind of crappy today, so you probably, maybe you wouldn't use them. But if you get less than a 10 and you needed a 10, at least you got it. Know what I mean?
Yep, got it.
Okay. All right, and Peter was a 14, Toki was a 20. So Toki is first. What is Toki doing? Let me go ahead and drop it on the map for you. He jumped over here. So this kind of stamping creature with these 4 big spiked crystalline legs they're basically, the feet of this thing are just sharp. It's just kind of, they come down to a point. There's no feet as much as it's just these points of hardened shell that are now covered in crystal. But it's kind of stamping these feet around itself constantly, as if it's about to charge towards you guys. It's really not paying much attention to the little cat that's next to it, but the cat is, potentially getting impaled by these feet as they come slamming down. So what's he doing?
Toki's going to run a little bit of interference for Ketis. So when Ketis goes, maybe he'll get the attention.
Okay. So he's going to aid for Ketis?
Yes.
Okay. He'll need to stay within range to do that. So is he doing so?
Yes, he is.
Okay. All right. I just moved him up slightly so that he's not right against the wall. All right. That is it for his turn. It is the Carcass turn. It is going to charge. Now, normally, Toki would get an attack of opportunity here, but because he can't attack, he doesn't get it. His speed is 30, so he can't make it the whole way. This massive crystalline spider-like crustacean comes charging at you, gets up as close as it can. It has a reach that you get to see this basically as it comes charging at you. It's standing on 3 legs and swipes out with its front right leg at you, and it's close. I mean, it's close enough that you have this kind of swoosh of this air of it breaking these crystals in front of your face, where it was only a few feet in front of your face. I mean, it has some reach. It couldn't quite reach you, but you're aware from that it did have some right there. But basically just barely missed the front of you guys. It didn't connect. But that's it for its turn because it couldn't get any further. Your turn. Because Toki is aiding your action, we'll still count it, because I mean Toki's not within range to technically have it, but I'm still going to go ahead and count it. So if depending on what you're doing, if you're attacking it or something like that, then you would have advantage on it from Toki's aid.
Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to do that, but first I'm going to hit it with Ghost Mark.
Okay.
Because I'm guessing this is a pretty big-looking dude, so I'm not going to use it on him.
Yeah, it definitely looks dangerous.
Okay. And now, I guess, with Toki getting his attention real quick, I'll sneak in there and see if I can hit him
you
fast.
over, around the legs of this thing, you're seeing this little retarded cat kind of howling at it and trying to distract it, and you can see that it keeps kind of turning its head back to what this ugly face thing that it has towards it, like it's definitely distracting it a little bit.
Okay. See if I can sneak in there and hit him then.
Its face is directly in front of you, so you could swing for that, or it's got these 4 long, spike-like legs that are just covered in these crystals. So what are you doing?
Is the face also covered in crystals too?
The
Do
whole
they both
thing
look like
is,
they're both?
it's all covered in crystals.
Okay,
It's
then
crystals
I
all the
think
way
I'm gonna try to take the leg out then.
Okay. You'll need to move. The legs are at the corners. Each of the corners has a
Okay.
leg, and then the face will be in the center like that. I'm gonna make him a little bit bigger. There you go. Okay, that is not the one that swiped at you, so that is the one that it's trying to hold its weight on. So if you were to, do enough damage to that, you might, maybe it'll lose its balance or something.
Then I'm definitely gonna aim for that one.
Okay.
That's not gonna work.
Nope. Yeah, you kind of, as this thing came in charged at you, you kind of threw your shield up and just unsheathed the sword off your back and come swinging at it, trying to swing at this leg, but the momentum of the front right, the one that would be in the bottom right corner there, but the front right leg that this thing had swinging at you has kind of knocked that leg to the side a little bit, just enough that where you swung it is just hit open air. You gonna swing again?
Should I have had advantage on that because Toki?
Oh,
or no?
yeah, you did, sorry. So go ahead and just roll it one more time. This still counts as your first swing.
Okay.
This will just be the other half of the advantage. Hey, better.
That's better.
So the blade just careens off of these crystals there. Go ahead and roll your damage on it.
Okay. Do I need to click the crow's mark effect first?
Yes, for your bonus, yeah. Oh, you already had actually, so now it's on there twice. Let me take it off.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So where your ruin, your blade comes off of this thing, you see that it hits one jagged edge of crystal and comes careening off of it and goes into another and just kind of slams into another kind of a little sharp point where the blade gets stuck into it. It doesn't look like it hurt it very badly. The damage from the crow's mark is doing fine, but the slashing looks like it's resistant too.
Okay. That makes sense.
You're gonna swing again?
Yeah, since might as well see if I can hit. Oh, that's
Hey,
good.
crit. Well, actually, because you're hitting that leg and it was losing its balance anyway, I was going to use the special crit table, but I already kind of told you what it would do. Go ahead and roll the damage.
Okay. Sweet. Oh, hang on. Yeah, no, I got it.
Yeah, you got it on there.
Okay.
Wait, did you not? Yeah, you had it. Okay, cool. So this spot where your blade got stuck on the first swing, you kind of throw your shield back up again in case it kind of turns its face toward you, and just hack down at the exact same spot. And where it crashes into it, I mean, you feel your blade is kind of sliding right off the crystals, like it's not doing very much. But where you hit it again, you're just kind of trying to almost just force your way through it, like bludgeoning your way through it almost. And where it just slams into it, a big chunk of crystal just explodes right off the thing and collapses onto the floor. And the thing screams and yanks its leg away, but where it does it, it just didn't have enough balance on its front leg, on its other leg, because it had just used it to swing and it wasn't, hadn't steadied itself yet. So it yanks this leg away where you just slashed at it, and as it's screaming in pain, it just kind of collapses down on its face right in front of you. I mean, you have to almost hop out of the way a little bit to not be crushed under this thing. You didn't chop the leg off, but it just from the pain where it yanked its leg away, now collapsed down. It's prone for the next round.
Cool.
Until its next turn.
Okay.
Prone effect on it. You've used your bonus action. Anything else you're doing?
Yeah, no, then I'm just gonna move back where I was, and that's it.
Okay. What prone means for Peter is any melee attacks are at advantage, and ranged attacks are at disadvantage on anything that's prone. Technically, with this, because it's as big as it is, I wouldn't really impose, because you're close enough anyway, I would not impose the disadvantage for ranged. But basically, that's it. So if they're on the ground and can't move, then it's a lot easier to stab them. But at range, it's harder to shoot them because they're a smaller target, because they're laying down. Peter's turn.
All right, Sounds good. I'm going to do a ray of enfeeblement just to kind of soften them up a little bit.
Okay. Used that last time. I think I remember how it worked. Is that concentration? And what level?
Yeah, concentration, and we're going to go level 2 with that.
Alright, I'm going to change your mode to combat real quick so I can see which ones. There we go. Either combat or... Yeah, combat, so it is. Did you mark off your... What'd you cast the first round? Oh, you cast a Detect Magic earlier, so Detect Magic you already marked off. So go ahead and mark off your Ray of Enfeeblement.
Yeah, I did Detect Thoughts at first. I'll mark it off now.
Okay. So where this thing is kind of collapsed down in front of you with this kind of angry snapping, the mouth on this thing is vertical, but it's kind of snapping and just kind of trying to clamber these awkward legs back up under it. It looks like it can't see very well, like these crystals are probably covering its eye stalks as well. But you hold your hand out with your index finger and ring finger extended and your thumb pointed towards it, and this black beam of almost like a black lightning kind of snakes out towards this thing and erupts around it. You see where the impact hits it, another little puff of crystal coming off of it. Go ahead and roll range spell attack. So click the magnifying glass to the right of Ray of Enfeeblement. And you have him targeted, so click the cast button. And cool. So your DC was 17 and he rolled a 9 plus 4, which is modifier, was 13, so he is enfeebled, so it worked. Basically it would apply that on him too. G, you keep applying the crow's mark effect rather than the damage. I think you were supposed. I think one of the times you put the effect on him twice instead of the damage. I'll fix it. But next time it comes up, I'll make sure that you're hitting the right one there.
Thank you.
All right. So, but that kind of black lightning surrounds him. You see it kind of crackling through this thing. Go ahead and Sako, grab the two things: the Ray of Enfeeblement effect, the first one, the one that says self. Click that. And that puts up the concentration effect on you. That's you holding the concentration to keep this thing weakened. And now for the second part, for strength attacks are half damage of it hitting you, grab that effect and drag it over and drop it on him. Either drop it on the token on the map or drop it on him in the combat tracker. Either one. There you go. And this thing has a fucking ton of effects on him now. You guys can't see them all because you can't see the other stuff, but... Alright, so that is on him, and that was it for your action. Do you have a bonus action you want to use?
Yeah, I'm going to try and... actually, can I move and then do a bonus action?
Yeah, you can use your movement, your actions, and bonus actions. You can use them whatever order you want. You can split up your movement if you want, anything like that.
Alright, I'm going to try to stay out of range and try and get behind him, where Toki is.
For you to do that, his range is 10 feet, so for you to move past him, you're going to have to enter his combat range and then exit his combat range, which means that if you do that by walking, you're going to provoke an opportunity attack. Basically, if you leave a creature's melee range at any point, it gets an opportunity attack on you. It would be at disadvantage because he'd be trying to swing at you while he's prone, so he would have disadvantage on the swing, but if you walk through its range like that, then he's going to get to try to swing at you.
Right, am I able to just walk 5 feet towards him, so I'm just out of his range,
His
and
range
then...
is 10 feet.
Ah, shoot,
That's
okay.
the trouble. You basically are just barely outside the range. That's why when he swung at you guys earlier, and it was just in front of you, it was because his range was 10 feet, and he was 15 feet away. Now, you do have... Did you bring Misty Step or Blink?
I do have Misty Step, but it's only 30 feet teleport, so I'd still be within his range behind him. I was thinking.
If you... The trigger is not the entering. The triggering is the exit. So if you were to move in, say 10 feet, like right in front of him, and then Misty Step past him, your exit is intangible, meaning he couldn't swing at you during your Misty Step. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Move
Yeah.
5 feet towards him, and then just bonus action.
Okay, yeah, you can do that. Okay, and how far is 35? 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. 30 would be, I would say, move to there, and then your jump would get you right in front of Toki there.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you, after you've just enfeebled this thing, you kind of, not even looking at it almost, you kind of charge towards it a little bit just off to the side, and before you've finished it, while you're still kind of mid-air with this step, because you may look a little, little elderly almost, not elderly, but a little older, a little wizened. That military training has not left you, and you kind of just hold one hand out while you're still mid-air, and send this kind of wisp of energy out towards the ground, and immediately just are enveloped in it, and then reappear on the ground in front of it. You marked up your spell slot?
Yep, all 3 full.
Damn, you burned out all your second levels. Alright, and you reappear right there in front of Toki. And outside of its range. It is still facing Kitas and Evara and collapse down. That it for your turn?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a question though, on my map, I see a lot of purple all around the place. Is it just blocked off right now? I can't see anything?
Yeah, those are walls. So basically, you guys, the only room, you're just surrounded by walls is all. Let me reveal that. I'll be able to show you that they're the wall portion right there.
All right, that's it for my turn then.
Okay. It is Navarro's turn. What are you doing?
Alright. Let's see.
You can see that there's a door, a couple of doors, basically. There's one door right by you, and then one that you just ran past.
Alright, we're gonna do play.
Okay. So you swing your stick up off your back, and without even, you're not even getting it in place before you've even kind of, in fact, as soon as your hand touches it, swinging it off of your back, it begins to grow these thorns and vines sticking off of it as you swing it around in front of you.
5, 15. You said one of the feet was over here, right?
Yep, that's the one that Ketis just took a good chop out of, and it is, it's laying, so it's got these kind of long, I sent you guys a picture, these kind of long elbows, and it's struggling trying to get itself righted back up. Its face is on the ground, and these legs are just really awkward, and now they're extra heavy because of all this crystal, and this creature is not normally supposed to be very big, and it's not normally supposed to be covered in crystal, so it can't figure out how to stand itself back up. It's kind of struggling and just knocking these legs all over the place all awkwardly. But yeah, you're basically sitting in front of a flailing leg with a chunk out of it.
And I still get advantage, right? Because he's
Yep,
prone.
it's still prone, yep.
Now, I haven't used Shillelagh in forever. Do I use the attack on Shillelagh, or do I just use my staff?
Shillelagh is, yeah, so you would use the cast button for it, where it says the melee +9, you hit the cast button there, and then actually put the effect on yourself too, and it is not concentration, so you don't have to worry about that part of it. That is done. It's a shame you guys don't hear the auto sounds, because those things are cool, like hearing swings and stuff like that. But you kind of, yeah, I'll get it fixed. One of these, I keep meaning to, and I keep meaning to fix the Vox thing too, so that it basically, when different NPCs are talking, I can just hold a button down and it'll make them sound different. Like if I'm holding this button, it'll sound, older or whatever, things like that. I bought all the software for it, and I keep trying to get it set up. I just, I'm not spending enough time during the week getting it prepped, and I end up doing it all on the weekend, and then I run out of time. So anyway, just my own problem for working too much. But you kind of, as you're bringing this thing down off your back, it just kind of sprouts all these thorns and these vines off of it, and you just bring it down in a swinging arc with you. You didn't even ready it, basically. It just went straight from being on your back to down and in a swinging arc towards this thing's leg. It cracks right into the spot where this chunk was off of it. This thing was already flailing and screaming, and you just kind of whacked it again with this. Go ahead and roll the damage on it.
Nice, honey.
Sorry, I'm taking care of some work stuff for 1 second here. So where this thing, so where this thing smacked into it, you actually hit the shell of it, like where the crystal's already been broken away from where Kita slashed it. But the shell, it just kind of, it smacks off of it, and you feel this kind of ringing almost going through the way that if you hit, a steel or an aluminum baseball bat against wood, it'll kind of shake in your hands. You get that kind of feeling almost as it rattles down. It feels like the bludgeoning may not be the way to go either, but the little thorns and shit that are on the side of it definitely kind of bit right into that little shell that's surrounding it. It seems like he definitely took some damage from that. Definitely hurt him pretty good.
Alright, then I'm gonna finish using my movement, go
Okay.
around that side.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you don't leave his range, then you're fine, and you're still within range there. Is that it for your turn? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sako, next time your turn comes around, remind me to show you how to end your turn. It is Toki's turn.
All right, Toki is going to run next to the creature and pretty much run interference again for Kitas.
Okay. Now, to do it this time, he's going to need to get a little close. He'll need to be within range, of course, but he won't be able to make it, I think, to the whole front. How far is his range? Oh, he's got 40 feet. Never mind. He's got plenty of range. To get its attention, its face is in the front, and it's not really paying attention to Toki, so it's going to need to be either around on the bottom or on the top. It has enough range to go to either side, so either over by Nivara or... There you go. Yeah, right there is fine. Okay, and it is aiding Kitas?
Yeah, you want me to turn complete?
Yeah. So bottom left corner, little arrow pointing down. On the combat tracker.
Yeah, I'm clicking it. Doesn't seem to be doing anything.
Shit. That's because you don't have control of Toki. That's why. Sorry. When it's Peter's turn again, you'll do it on Peter. All right. The carcass turn. It is going to stand back up, so it is no longer prone. That takes half of its movement to stand, by the way. So keep that in mind. Anytime you guys get knocked prone, if you have to stand up, takes half your movement to do so. So it is now. It kind of finally gets that leg back up under it and kind of pushes itself up with its giant kind of awkward elbow and just rotates in place the way that a spider can. Does it without moving forward or backward. It just kind of turns itself around so that it is now facing Nivara, who just cracked it in the leg with this stick, and is going to stab at her with its right leg, the one that hasn't been touched yet, but the same one that swung at you guys earlier. As it's kind of rotating its way around, is just going to kind of stab this straight at Nivara. And hits. You have just enough time that you kind of whacked it away with the stick, just enough that it didn't hit you in the chest or anything. It's still hurt from all the sharp edges of the crystal as it brushed past your shoulder, just rips open the skin there. But it didn't get the stab in, thankfully. But it is going to kind of backhand and try to do the same thing, where you kind of knock the leg away. It's going to bring that claw back, or that leg back, and try to smack you with it. God damn it. You guys, you ruined all my cool boss monsters by making me roll shitty on these. You fucking rolled a 1.
Did that strength-based thing, or is that strength-based?
Oh,
because
that was
thing
strength-based
that Taco
attack, actually.
casted it. So did the first one hit?
It still hits, it just takes half
Okay.
damage. So,
Okay.
Becky, for that first hit, it was 9 damage, but you would only, it rounds down, and then the half still rounds up, so it would be 5 damage instead of 9. Thanks for reminding me. I just fixed it for you, Becky.
Thank you.
But the second swing, though, it tries to bring this around, but to do that kind of backhanded swing with its right front leg, it has to put its weight on its front left, the one that you guys have been whacking on already. And that leg just doesn't hold, and leg kind of gives out, and it ends up kind of slipping and falling itself over, falls towards its front right shoulder, where the front leg would be, and falls prone again. Jerks keep ruining my badass mobs. Alright, it is now prone again. It made both of its attacks. That's it for its turn. Kitas' turn. You have advantage on melee if you were to try to melee it. What was that, Becky?
No, I was just saying, at least this time it's actually getting hits in. There was one that didn't hit at all.
Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
like that
that
griffin or
was
something.
like
You guys fucked up that griffin.
Yeah, that is not too much trouble. Alright, I'm going to use my bonus action to put up Shield Master.
Okay. Which part? Which thing from Shield Master? There's like 3 things that it can do.
Okay, let me see. Ooh, I like that one.
What's the bonus action one? There's a reaction, a bonus action, and then I think like a passive. You can shove with a bonus action, which would shove it back 5 feet.
Okay,
That's
and then the other two.
The deck save
The other
is
two take
basically
a reaction.
Well, the deck save is if you're forced to make a deck save by like a spell that would normally target you, like not a fire ball but a fire bolt, anything that would only target you, you can use your shield to ignore the damage from it. And the last one would be to take no damage from an area effect. Nope, never mind. It's also only for you. Yeah, so none of those are useful for you at the moment. It's not throwing spells at you or anything.
Yeah. Okay, I just didn't know if the shield master would make it to where it would save me if it tried to incapacitate me, and I had to use a dex save to try to get it from, falling or get me from falling prone or something.
It
Does
could
it work on that?
Yeah.
Or
In this particular case, no, it's not using spells. So, but either way, that would be a reaction anyway. If it was trying to hit you, it's not something you need to proactively put up.
Okay. Then, yes, I will. Well, first, I'm gonna put my shield back up,
Okay.
and then I'll go back in and see if I can hit him again, since the kitty is running interference for me.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's. It looks like it's barely touched. It doesn't look like it's hurt much at all.
Okay.
It's just, the thing in its leg is making it more awkward than anything.
Okay. And you said I'd have an advantage on the. Well, he's prone anyways.
He's
Advantage
prone,
on
so you'd
the-
still have it.
anyway.
Yeah, but you'd have it extra, or you'd have it for the aid action as well if you were to do a spell or something.
Okay.
What were you aiming for?
This time I'm going to see if I can hit him in the face head area.
Okay. It is facing Nivara, so you kind of have to run underneath its jabbing leg where it just swung at her to hit it in the face.
Okay, then maybe I'll just go at just one of its legs again. Then
Okay.
I don't want to get myself hurt.
Right.
Did it hit?
Yeah, it hit. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the right one.
Cool.
Last time I think you had just reapplied the effect on him.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, you hack it at the leg that it's been using to swipe at you guys as it kind of, it's not even settled down yet, it's not even pushed back into the ground yet, where it kind of awkwardly fell again. But you hack away and take a good chunk out of the crystalline carapace that it's got around itself. Same thing, looks like the slashing is not hurting it very much, but the crow's marked it a little.
Yeah.
Okay, you gonna swing again?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Damn it.
And it hits.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, its AC isn't very high. It's too big to have high AC.
I guess so. Oop. Damn it.
Yeah, it didn't roll too good, but still looks like it's taken
Yeah.
some decent chunks out of this thing. But if your turn.
Actually, I'm going to, again, go back to where I was.
Okay.
And that is it.
Peter, Ketis has a feat called Mobile that as long as he tries to melee swing at something, he can jump out of its range. As long as he tries to hit it, whether he hits or not doesn't matter, but as long as he tries to hit something, then it does not get opportunity attacks on him for that round. That's why he's able to move back without taking opportunity attacks. It is Peter's turn. What are you doing?
Alright, I'm going to move Peter to the left wall and then throw a firebolt cantrip at it.
Okay. All right, and for your firebolt, go ahead. Yeah, you have him targeted. You click the cast button. So hit the magnifying glass and then hit the cast button.
Sorry, I'm still looking through my spells, sorry.
You're good. It's under your cantrips. Near the top of your spell list there. Now, because he was prone, you technically had disadvantage, but it didn't matter. You rolled. I would have taken it off anyways. But you rolled an 18 and a 16, and both of them with your modifier, which is +9, still hit. So you kind of, as you're running over towards this wall, you kind of reach one hand over, and kind of with a flick of your wrist, send this little. It's not a very big one. It's only about the size of a baseball at first, but as you flick your wrist out towards it, this little rolling ball of fire expands and expands as it's moving through the air till it's about the size of a basketball, and it smacks him in the side in this kind of crab-like shell. And there's a kind of a small pop sound as it hits the side of this, the way that a crab might pop thrown in a fire. But it did hit, so go ahead and roll your damage. So where it hit, you realize that even though it hit and it made this pop, like there was an impact to it, it looks like it just didn't burn through anything. Like maybe it looks like it's invulnerable to fire damage. But narratively, the concussion is still going to hit it, so it is only one. So it only took one extra damage from it, but it looks like it's immune to fire and resistant to, so far you've seen it resistant to bludgeoning and slashing.
All right. Can I just take I was going to say, can I take a second and kind of look around? I see that void field above me.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any switches or anything that are exposed from the crystal?
Roll. So normally this would be kind of a, something you would take an action to do to make a thorough look around, but we'll just count it as your bonus action here. No, I wouldn't even mind using it as bonus actions in general, or free action if it's something simple, but go ahead and take a bonus action perception roll. Actually, because you're looking for something specific, make it investigation. That's better for you anyway, since it's intelligence-based.
All right. Tower or no tower?
Doesn't matter. So looking around, you can't really, like, you look over to the right where that thing is and all the stuff that's moving around, and you're not really seeing much of anything over there. Nothing that stands out for you for sure, just because there's too much activity. But you kind of swing your head over to the left and look towards this other where the field is that you guys came through. Basically, there's another one to the north of you there. You look over there and you see that there's a few. There's runic symbols along the wall. Roll an Arcana check. Roll it with advantage, actually, just because you're familiar with arcane runes. You recognize multiple of the symbols. A couple of them look to be used for rearranging and things like that, for maybe organization or pushing things to walls, that kind of stuff. But there is one that says purge. That stands out to you. So do with that what you will. That if your turn?
Yeah, I'll have my turn.
Okay. Becky's turn.
Alrighty. Well, I'm still within 5 feet. Let's try this again.
Yeah, this thing, so its face is now kind of on the ground in front of you. Are you swinging down for its head? You going for a leg? What are you doing?
I'll go for its face since it's right there.
Okay. So its snapping jaws are just kind of, they're far enough away from your feet. You're not really at any risk, but it's just like very awkward and confused and in pain. It doesn't know what's happening, and you're just beating up on this poor little defenseless animal. As typical druid fashion for you. Beating up on children, murdering halflings and beating up on animals. But you smack this thing right in the head. Like there's just a loud cracking sound as this thing comes crashing down through its face. But it definitely hit. Go ahead and roll damage. I'm just kidding, by the way, about the druid thing.
No, it does seem like that's all I do, though. Oh man.
Did you? Yeah, you had advantage on it. Okay. Yeah, it smacks through, and actually, where you hit this thing, you see like a small shower of these. There's just rows and rows of teeth inside this thing's mouth, and you see like a small shower of them as they just kind of clatter against the crystals on the floor, and then immediately become crystallized themselves. But yeah, it still smacked him. Still did well. It just, these things resistant to bludgeoning is all.
Okay, so
If you guys keep hitting it with what it's resistant to, it's going to take a while.
Alright, so I'm gonna go 25, 30. Alright, we're gonna go over back on this side.
Okay, you are now behind it. Its face is on basically its whole crab-like body basically is on the floor. Those two legs are still up. It's just its face, and then its front legs are down. Okay, it is a new round. It is Toki's turn. What is Toki doing?
All right, I'm actually going to have Toki run back to me because I'm going to, I guess, unsummon him.
Okay, if you're going to make him walk to you, he's going to get an opportunity attack. One of those clacking legs is going to try to jab at him. It would be a disadvantage because the thing is prone. But you can make him disappear where he is without having to bring him to you. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just snap your fingers and he just there's a small vacuumy kind of a sound and he just disappears. I don't remember if that takes an action or anything for you to do. Find familiar, let me see.
Would that be a Peter thing or a Toki thing?
That's a Peter thing. I'm looking at it right now, the find familiar still. Yeah, it's an action to do, so that would take your turn to do it. Now, depending on what you're doing, remember, it doesn't really matter if he... Well, it's up to you, so I guess it depends what you're doing, but it would take an action to dismiss him.
Okay, I thought that was something that Toki did instead. Instead, I'll just keep Toki there and continue to run interference for Ketis.
Okay. Is that it for Toki?
Yep, simple cat.
All right. It is the carcass turn. It is going to stand back up again, you jerks. It is, okay, half of its movement to stand. It is going to spin around again. It's going to spin around and it sees Ketis before it sees Nivara. It is going to try to move over Nivara to get to Ketis. Roll a dex save on Nivara. Before I move him so that you're not stuck under there. Oh yeah, you have no trouble. You rolled a natural 20. You just seeing this thing standing up and seeing that leg kind of spinning around. You kind of innately are familiar with these things, and you know, recognizing how this kind of a creature is going to move. Know that that leg is going to be in a spot that would be dangerous for you. So you just instinctively hop yourself back and out of the way, and it charges itself towards Ketis, and is going to its mouth that is now. Kind of half broken from the staff shillelagh smack that it had, is going to kind of open its mouth right in front of Ketis' face, and with a scream that would be a scream from any normal animal that is allowed to. Crustaceans don't really have much of one, but the kind of spray of teeth and crystals is still going to try to fly out over Ketis. Roll a dex save. You need to beat a 15.
Okay. Did I roll it twice? Sorry.
Oh, I think I dropped it on you on accident. Yeah, I dropped it on you. That was my fault. I had made you roll it the first time on accident, so we won't count that one. You needed to beat a 15, and you rolled a 15, so you do save. So this thing, as it that was a shit ton of damage that you just avoided too, so that's good. As it's kind of opening its mouth to try to spit this spray of crystals at you, you already had your shield up anyways. You kind of just lift it up just enough that it's showering over these. In fact, here's where Shield Master would come into play, by the way. It's only supposed to be single target stuff, but because you were the only one affected by this AoE, I would still count it for you. But anyways, you throw your shield up, and there's just this constant raining sound, almost like hail on a tin roof of these crystals just spraying off of your shield and going in all directions. But you didn't take any damage from it.
Sweet.
It is in frustration is going to try to swing at you with its front. It gets 2 attacks each round, so it's going to try to swing at one of its legs at you.
I'll parry if it hits.
It does hit.
I shall parry.
All right.
1. Kind of grab his head.
Well, it did. 14 would be 7 because it's still enfeebled. Brought down to 6 because of your. Well, hang on. So you had 7 temporary HPs. You had not been hurt yet, right?
Yeah, sure.
Right, so, alright, your parry was another 4, that makes that 11, and it only did 7. So... Wait, did I do the math right on that? I think so. Yeah, you only rolled a 1 plus 3, yeah. So you had essentially 11 HP worth of blocking. So you still have half of your, well, 4 of your little temporary barrier from your false life.
Not bad.
It still gave you a good ring across the shoulder though, where you were able to block most of it with your shield, but the impact still just kind of shook up through your shoulder like a shock just from the force. It is your turn. What do you do?
All right.
It's no longer prone, and you actually the Toki is still harassing it for you, so you still have advantage on melee.
Okay.
But keep in mind, your melee is not doing a lot to it.
Yeah. Let's try something different this time. You know what? I'm gonna see if this works. Let's see if I can hit it with light.
I think the
I
aid
was
action.
just looking at that one.
What?
I was just looking at that one.
What was that, Jake?
The aid action. I'm not. I think the aid action can technically be anything, but you might have to say what it's going to be. We'll clear that up before next section. Go ahead. Whatever. If you were going to do a spell edit or something, I'd give you advantage on that too, because Toki is still aiding you. I'm just not sure if the aid action would require that he says whether it's melee or specific spell or anything like that. So we'll worry about that later. We'll
Okay.
nail down aid from familiar. All right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
See if I can hit it with light. So, yeah, good thinking, dude. So with advantage or no?
Yeah.
Okay. And then drop the cast on him, right?
Light. You used it before. Yeah, it needs to make a con DC 15.
Okay.
So drop that cast on him first to see if he makes a save. God damn it, you jerks. He rolled a 10. His modifier is a 4 for a total of 14. He does not make his save.
Kick ass.
So you point at him.
Oh boy.
Target must make a con saving throw, which he failed. Target takes 8d8 necrotic. Jeez. Okay, so... yeah, you get to see that, yeah. So, the biggest hit we've ever had in the game was the last time you casted Blight, which was on the Vine Lash, the big vine monster.
That was instant damage, though.
That was full damage because he was a plant.
Yeah.
And that was 64 damage. So this is, I think, probably the second biggest hit, which was Blight again for 44 damage. He is... So you... kind of hold your shield arm out, where you just use the shield to kind of deflect these crystals. You kind of throw your shield back, which puts you in a risky spot. But you hold your hand out right in front of you, holding your 3 fingers extended, and your thumb holding down your pinky. You hold it right in front of his face, which is quite risky because those snapping jaws are right in front of you. But you send out this wave of just black and green kind of roiling energy that just rolls out over him and starts to cover it in this kind of sickly pustule and boils that surround it, and just roll over its body, covering it with this kind of sickly malaise, and does a shit ton of damage, and now it looks very beat up. It doesn't look so healthy anymore.
Sweet.
It is not plant or anything, so it's not automatic, but it still did a shit ton of damage, so that's good. Mark off your spell slot.
Alright. And...
Actually, that was supposed to be one more d8 because you have 5th level spells now, don't you? Your
Yeah.
spells are 5th level? Yeah, so
Yeah.
at higher levels, when you cast a spell using a 5th level or higher, damage is increased by 1d8 for each slot level above 4th, which means there was supposed to be one more d8 on there because I hadn't updated that spell.
Okay.
So roll one more d8 and I'll put it on there.
Okay.
I'll
And
update
that's
that
the
next
one.
time.
That's the
It
one
is
that's
third from
third
the right.
from the right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You fucking
Alright.
assholes are ruining my monsters. Alright, that if your turn. Bonus action.
Yeah, I don't think trying to probably wouldn't be able to get away from where it's at anyway, so I think I would just turn. I'm not even really hurt, so I will call it good.
Okay, it is Peter's turn. It looks, by the way, it is more than bloodied. It's pretty beat up. So what are you doing, Peter?
Thinking of moving north. Actually, can I yell across the lab as a free action to the team?
Yep.
All right, so pretty much I'm just gonna ask everybody, what do you think if I run up and check on that rune to purge?
A complicated question. I mean, that's enough for, like, simple questions and answers are perfectly fine, and that's enough that they could respond. So you guys, hear Peter yelling this from across the room. It is a little bit hard to understand what's being said because of those crinkling sounds that are in the air everywhere, and it's even louder, of course, with this giant crystal thing right in front of you. But yeah, so I mean, you did hear that. So what do you guys reply?
And what was that? A purge? Is that a spell of his or something?
So what he saw earlier, that's true. You guys didn't see that, so you wouldn't necessarily know. They would probably not understand what you're saying by that. So do you want to take another shot at what you said to them for Peter, or what? Because they wouldn't know what you saw. They wouldn't know what the runes are necessarily, and 2, even if they did, they would probably assume that you were referring to a spell that you have.
Okay, let me rethink that then.
Now you, for Peter, just intuiting how that would probably work, would understand, of course, that that's not going to be picky. It's not going to only send the creature out. It would send you guys out as well.
All right, I'm gonna make a move and then hit some magic missiles, level 4.
Okay. Now magic missiles automatically hit, and at 4, I think you get 5 total missiles. Is it 1 extra for each level, I think? 3 glowing darts, each dart at a creature within range. Each dart deals 1d4 plus 1 force damage to its target. Darts all strike simultaneously, and you can direct them all to hit a single target. Second level or higher, 1 more dart for each slot level above first. So you said you were going to use a 4th level slot?
Correct.
Alright, so you've got 3, 1 for 2nd level, 1 for 3rd level, 1 for 4th level. So you've got 6 total darts. So there's no roll for attack or anything, it's just you have him targeted and then click the damage 6 times, assuming you're sending all 6 at him.
That I am. So click damage 6 times.
Yep. Nice. Let's see, where does that put him? Okay, so the force, so you kind of move yourself up to get yourself a better angle, and just almost like throwing, like throwing stars almost. You kind of just fling these things out, and they're just small balls, almost look crystalline in themselves, actually, of bright white light, just kind of go sailing through the air and just crashing into this thing. And every impact that they make hits, and there's just an explosion of crystalline shards that go bursting up around it with each one. And that you're kind of trying to aim them specifically towards the joints of this thing, and you throw 1, 2, and then 3, and the third one, when the third one impacts, it hits the back left leg, right at the joint, right at the knee, essentially, where this long leg is attached. And the third one, when it hits, just goes sailing straight through it. It explodes off of it, and that leg just with a, if you're cracking crab legs at a restaurant, that kind of a sound. It just comes popping straight off. That leg goes falling straight to the ground. You kind of react in the moment and send the other 3 off to the other back leg. And the first one impacts, the second one impacts, the third one impacts, and that leg goes breaking as well. And both of the 2 back legs come just exploding off of this thing. It screams in pain, and now it is not technically prone, but is now faced up because its 2 back legs have exploded off of it. What are you doing? It's still alive, but it looks very close to death.
I don't have anything else I can do right now, so I'll end the turn.
You have any bonus actions?
I can move for a bonus action. Let me just see real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you could dash or whatever, but as far as... Yeah, looks like Misty Step's your only bonus action in there. Did you mark off your spell slot?
I'm going to mark it off and end my turn.
Okay. Alright, it is Nightmare's turn.
Might as well.
It is very close to death, by the way. For Peter, he has 3 HPs left.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to take much to finish.
Almost finished it off with magic missile, like the most staple of mage spell, or wizard spells.
Alright, well then maybe I won't waste a spell slot then and just continue to use Shillelagh.
Yeah, it
Bash
looks
on one more
very
time.
close to death.
Put him out, baby.
Alright. Seriously? Are you freaking kidding me?
So you were already in mid swing basically when these missiles came out of nowhere. These explosive little force balls. By the way, it takes extra damage from force because the concussion against these crystals is what was hurting it more. So that those magic missiles were a good choice. But anyways, you were already mid swing when these things come out of nowhere, and you were about to swing at this leg that just got popped off. So you end up hitting it like a baseball bat, smacking something that's already floating in midair because this leg was no longer attached. You crack right into it, and the leg goes kind of sailing off in this kind of reduced gravity environment here, but it didn't hurt it at all. It was, the leg was no longer attached, so you're basically just, batting at a limb that wasn't connected anymore. Any bonus actions? Anything?
No, but I am gonna move behind it. So he knocked out these legs, right?
Yep, the 2 back
Okay.
legs. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna move behind it then.
All right. It is Toki's turn.
Alright, Toki's pretty much useless at this point. So I'm just going to move him out of the way.
Okay. Yeah, normally he would still have an opportunity attack, but because of... I use kind of they're not homebrew, but basically, you know, realistic, let's say, flanking rules. So in this particular case, it's got 2 legs that are in front of it that it's trying to use to stand on. It doesn't have any legs in the back, so I mean, it doesn't make any sense for it to try to rotate in place to swing at the cat. You know what I mean? So where he would normally have taken an opportunity to attack there, because realistically those legs aren't there anymore. It's not going to be. It's not supposed to work that way in 5e in this game. But I would, you know, house rule it that, and then it makes sense for him to be able to move. So he's out of the way. Is that it for Toki's turn?
Yep, pretty much runs past the broken legs and to safety.
All right. And all right. Fingers crossed I get to do something cool finally. Where it fell down in almost a not necessarily an intentional attack, but in a visceral, innate kind of a response to this. It is spitting out another spray of these crystals at Ketis' face, where it kind of fell backwards. So roll a dex save on Ketis. You need to beat a 15.
Damn it.
Fingers crossed that you fail. I want this thing to at least do something. You fuckers. Alright. So because it was falling backwards, where its 2 back legs have just been ripped off out from underneath it, and its face was kind of lifting up towards the ceiling because it doesn't have these rear supports anymore, this shower of crystals goes up over your head, and you just kind of throw your shield up above your head and listen to these things just kind of pelting down above you, almost raining down on your shield, but you don't take any damage. Your turn. What are you doing? Technically, I should have a swing again, but it doesn't make any sense for him to try to swing with, you know, with only the 2 legs. So.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna put him out of his misery and hit him with death now in the face.
Okay.
But I'm not
you're not gonna push him, right?
No, because I don't want him to go smashing into the Navarro. So
Yeah.
I'll
The
leave him
only, the only damage the thing could do is you doing it.
Yeah, somebody gets hurt at least.
She got slashed with it a little bit, but that was about it.
Yeah.
And it hits. Go ahead. Roll your damage.
Okay. Was that one?
It was a 1, but the damage from it was enough. So you kind of hold that shield arm out towards it, and just send out that little rolling ball of black and green energy. This smacks the thing in the face. There's just the briefest moment of it looking a little bit stunned by it, but it just doesn't have enough fight left in it, and it just begins to kind of come down and it's no longer moving. It is toast.
Can I use the Grows Mark to replace my temp HPs that I have with the new temp HPs, or can I not do that?
Yeah, so they don't stack, so it'll replace what you have there.
Yeah.
But since it still had its your Crow's Mark on it, it is 13. I thought it was more. I
Yeah.
thought it was like 20. No, Warrior plus Charisma or Warlock. Yeah, so 10 plus your. Yeah, that's 13. Okay, that's right. Go ahead and hit it, and it should go to 13. If it goes to 17, I'll fix it. Wait, does that not... Is it just a heal?
It didn't.
It's not temp HPs? It didn't, but I'm not sure. Is it supposed to just be a healer, or is it supposed to be temp HPs?
I think it's supposed to be temp HPs. Let me double check it again.
Nope, regain hit points equal to your Warlock level plus your Charisma modifier.
Oh, okay.
One. So it's a flat heal, which means since you weren't hurt,
Yep.
it didn't do anything. But when that thing dies, though, you feel you hear just a distant. It's only you that hears this. You hear kind of a distant crow's call, like a caw. And feel just the almost imperceptible difference in weight off of your left shoulder. It felt like there was just the tiniest amount of weight on your left shoulder that is gone for a second, and then a half step later is back again.
Sweet. All right.
All right, so there we go. Uh-oh, did I not put it in there? Shit, I didn't. 1 second, dudes. All right. So as the creature dies, that loudening kind of crinkle tinkle sound that has just been kind of playing constantly, as you guys have heard, begins to get louder and louder. It isn't coming from anywhere specific. It's more like it's coming from all directions at once, like maybe it's resonating through the crystal. It doesn't sound real. It almost sounds synthetic in a way, but it coalesces closer and closer and closer until it becomes music almost that says...
Come from my home inside a cloud, lost to the dark, I drift alone. Now I'm returned beyond the shroud, never to linger on my
And as it finishes saying that, the song that it sings through that, the portal that is actually right above where Toki was, where he still is on the map there, it snaps shut. It just closes itself. It had been there and had stayed there that whole time, but that little ring of light that was there just snaps shut and it disappears. And this is what it said. So you are now in this docking bay area with a giant crystalline kind of crustacean spider kind of corpse thing, and otherwise alone inside this. You're still hearing distant, almost booms. They're not explosions, but loud, like crashing sounds of things hitting other things, and it could just be the explosion of crystals that are growing on crystals that are breaking steel and bending parts of the material of this floating lab. But basically, you're in here hearing kind of these distant sounds and these crinkling sounds surrounding you. So, what are you guys doing?
Right. I think we need to investigate a little bit further. See. So,
You guys can interact amongst your characters too. Remember, so like if you were curious what happened there, like if everybody else, if other people heard that, things like that.
Okay. All right. Now, is this a wall like where I'm at here, or is
You are
we're, like,
next
in a
to
room?
you're next to a door that looks like that door is actually bowed towards you. It's bowed in towards the room, like there's like something's forced it. Maybe the crystals from the inside, presumably. But that door is kind of broken almost towards you. There is another door over here, over by Toki. Peter, is Toki still out?
Yeah, Toki's still hanging out.
Okay. But there's another door right there where the arrow is pointing.
Okay. If I head over here, can I hear anything on the other side? Does it sound like anything in there? Or is the door even functional?
That door is not broken. Those are the only two doors in here, and that door doesn't look to be broken. It looks solid. It looks like you could probably open it. It is covered in crystals, same as everything else in here. Which you guys, by the way, you're having to be careful this whole time to not, if you move too fast, or if one of these shards ends up kind of getting through this nullification aura that's surrounding you, you would presumably get crystallized as well. So you're having to be very careful this whole time, by the way. But anyways, you're approaching the door. You don't hear anything, at least from a distance. Are you going to listen to the door, like put your ear to it and listen?
Yeah.
Roll
I cannot actually touch it, but
Okay. Roll perception.
okay.
What are Peter and Navarre doing?
I was wondering if I can also join him with a perception check as well.
Sure. You can both. I mean, it's not something you can't really help somebody else listen. You know what I mean? But you could both listen. So normally I would let you do like the aid action or whatever, but in this case you would just both be listening yourselves. So go ahead and roll a perception on Peter as well, and this one in the tower. Perception is usually in the tower most of the time. What's Navarre doing?
I'm over here checking out where that circle of light is and see if I can't.
It's snapped shut. It's gone now.
Okay, I just mean like the area that it was at.
Okay.
I can't
Roll an investigation on Navarre. So you looking around, it's gone. There's nothing residual in the air or anything like that stands out. But looking it over, you're pretty certain you've kind of pieced together that although the sound itself was resonating through the crystal and theoretically could have been heard from anywhere, you're kind of putting it together that whatever was on the other side of that portal is what caused that to happen. That whatever was on the other side of that portal is what dropped that crustacean. That grew up and exploded in crystals and everything, but also that the song came from whatever was on the other side of it. It isn't there anymore, though. So that's just kind of what you're piecing together, just from that's what you've intuited, your intuition on the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
As for listening, both Peter and Ketis, you both are, standing still and just trying your hardest to kind of block out the surrounding sounds, but this constant crinkling that's in your ears is making it difficult. You're listening at the door, though, and you're not hearing You're not hearing anything from directly on the other side of the door, but there is noise coming from that direction. It's probably, though, it sounds like it's the same noise that's coming from all around, in that you're hearing these crystals that keep growing are pushing into steel and breaking doors and things like that as it grows. So that's what it sounds like that's what you're hearing. You don't feel like you're, hearing, somebody moving or anything on the other side of the door.
Alright, so what happens if I carefully try to open it?
So the door is a sliding door. Think like a futuristic style. It's not aperture, because those are stupid. Aperture doors have always been fucking retarded. Star Trek stupid, so Star Wars or whatever. So the door is a simple design. It's existed the same way. The doors have existed. Literally, doors have worked the exact same way since they were first started in modern architecture, which was 3,000 years ago. Really, no need for aperture doors. You know what an aperture door is?
Opens up.
Well, I mean, all doors open up, but aperture doors...
Well, no, but like straight up.
No, an aperture door is...
Like two pieces.
No, that's fine. Those even make sense. That's fine. What doesn't make sense are the ones that look like like a face of a camera. You know how the face will have like all those little blades that kind of open out in a circle? Like an asterisk almost? That's an aperture. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's just pardon my ranting for
I know what you mean.
stupid sci-fi always being dumb. Anyway... but yeah, it is a sliding door. It doesn't have a doorknob on it, but you notice that there is a handprint, a rune-shaped runic symbol with a handprint surrounding it on the wall there.
Can I make an Arcana check on the rune, and then potentially use my mage hand from a distance, just in case?
Sure. Make a roll an Arcana check with advantage. You rolled two shitty rolls. You rolled a 2 and a 4, but thankfully your Arcana's high enough that there's still plenty. The modifier is 9, so you're plenty good. But yeah, you look at it, you don't even have to think about it. I mean, you look at it, it says open right there. Like, you can read it. They don't necessarily, aren't as familiar with arcane runes, but it just says open. So you look over and see it, and you say, yeah, it's just open, it's fine. What do you tell Peter, hey, hold back a second, I'm going to open it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Oh, sorry.
Nope.
I thought you were talking to me. Was I?
You can hit it with Mage Hand then?
Yeah, I'm gonna hit it with Mage Hand. I don't know if Ketis wants to take a step back just in case.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead and move yourself back. And Toki's still at your feet, Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead and move yourselves away from the door there. In this particular case, doesn't necessarily matter too much, but you send out your mage hand, and you kind of mimicking it as if you were wearing a glove almost. You kind of hold your hand out in the exact motions that you're making. Your floating kind of disembodied hand, this kind of light purplish image of it, almost like smoke almost. But it goes up, and you kind of hold your hand flat and just presses against this rune. And there is a louder version, basically, of the same kind of crinkling sound you've been hearing this whole time, as crystals are torn in half, really, as this sliding door kind of slowly begins to open itself, but it's just crunching all this shit as it's trying to kind of push its way through. It gets about halfway and then is almost stuck because there's just too much shit behind it that it can't push its way through anymore. But it kind of ripped its way through this kind of crystalline skin that had been surrounding this door almost, and is now stuck halfway in the doorway there. So you guys, I mean, there's still enough room for you to be able to get through, but beyond that, it's basically just stuck kind of halfway open. And Ketis can actually see into the room from there, from where you're standing. It looks, looking through, everything is covered in crystal again, except for there's a massive like glass dome inside the middle of the room. It's about 4 feet tall, so it's not all the way up to the ceiling or anything, but a big dome that's about 4 feet tall, and it is not covered in crystal, but pretty much everything else is.
Okay. And if I look around the room, it doesn't seem like anything's, moving in there or anything. Just that dome, basically.
Nope. Yeah, you
Okay.
don't see anything else moving.
All right. Should I move so on the map, or just?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Here, let me reveal
Then-
part of it for you.
Now, is this door open enough for us to travel through, or is it still pretty small?
It's enough that you'll turn yourself sideways and kind of sidle through it, like walk sideways through it. You'd be able to get through that way.
Okay.
From there, though, you can see pretty much the whole room, so let me just reveal it. Yeah, you're able to sight all your way inside. I gotta reveal this in chunks because the map was really big and I don't want to crash Fantasy Grounds. Really looking forward to the new version. There's a ton of cool features that it's going to be adding. Pardon the... I was using the sideways tool, basically, so I can kind of rearrange it. Alright, so you guys all step in?
Yeah.
So you guys, you enter into this. It's a really big room for what you'd expect. It's not quite as big as the dock you just came out of. You guys kind of all one by one side all your way through there. You notice Toki is like being really careful with his footfalls. Like he's not really all the way there. He's kind of half in this dimension and half in the Fey realm. But every footfall, you notice that he's like looking down at his feet in kind of a stupefied way, basically, where his feet are kind of carefully stepping on these sharp crystals, like he's trying to avoid cutting his feet, even though it wouldn't even matter because he can't. But he's kind of carefully patting his way in here. Big room, though, dominated by this one large dome. It's about 4 foot tall. It's about 10 foot around. The circle there is not the dome, by the way. This is the best map I had, but it's not exactly representative of everything. Some parts are better than others. But anyways, about a 10 foot around, 4 foot tall dome. You can walk all the way around it. There's plenty of room all the way around it. But the walls of this room are covered in a series of paintings with plaques beneath. Each of these paintings and the plaques recollect like a historical depiction of an invention or something that a breakthrough from the Miller family. This might be kind of a small haphazard museum almost for the Miller family, which are Oliver's family, most of which look to be attributed to Roman Miller, which looks to be Oliver's grandfather by the look of things. There is an exhibit of chronological detail of different elevators, though, and each iteration of them, how they all evolved on one on the next. Like the first one was basically a bucket and a pulley, and then the next one's slightly better, and so on. All of these look to be attributed to Oliver's mother, who was a woman named Maureen, based on the information you gathered from these plaques there. The dome, though, that's filling most of the room here, looks to be like under it. You can see through it, and it seems to be the only thing that's not covered in this crystal and thin crystal and sheen, basically. This room doesn't look quite as bad as the one you just came out of, by the way. Like the crystals aren't quite as thick in here, like maybe they haven't grown in here as long. But anyways, this dome, the glass doesn't look to be covered in crystal, and you can see right through it. And it looks like a miniature version of the capital city of Mist. Ketis has never been there, Navarra's never been there, Peter has definitely been there. In fact, Peter left there 2 years ago, right before coming into the college, the capital city. Obviously, Drost and West are, from Mist, so they're familiar with that area, but Ketis and Navarra don't necessarily know it. But it is well known amongst humans because it is the kind of the human capital for where humans first landed here. For Sako, humans are not native to this planet. They've only been around for about 2,000 years, which is still a very long time, but they're not native to this planet where these other species are. But anyway, we'll get to that history stuff later on. Anyway, though, under this dome, you see snow-covered streets and towers that nearly reach the inner side of the glass, the inner side of the dome, like just tall skyscrapers almost. Just incredible lit-up signs that are hanging from every other building. It looks almost futuristic, like an idealized world of tomorrow kind of thing, of this little mini version of the city. Roll up well, I guess who's doing what first? What are you guys doing?
Am I able to detect magic?
Yeah, go ahead and, well, you have to cast it. It's not. So here's how that works. You can use what's called you can use an arcane check, basically, Arcana, to look at simple things and identify whether or not there is an arcane aura surrounding it. A really good Arcana check will probably even tell you what school it's from. But if you want to actually know what it is and what kind of spell it is, that's when you'd have to use the Detect Magic spell.
All right, just working on Arcana check.
Okay. On anything in particular, or what?
Specifically the dome. It looks like there's contents inside there, so that.
Okay. Go ahead and make your check. Not advantaged. Natural 20. So advantage didn't matter.
That's how I roll.
You look it over and you are just looking at it. There's definitely something magic, and actually when you're kind of taking your steps around this thing, just kind of taking a assessment of the room here, you actually see a small console on one side that the magic is coming from, where this emanation is coming from. You see another runic symbol in the shape of a hand, same kind of thing basically. So you see another hand that you saw in the door, and this one says enter, not open but enter, and with that hand, same kind of handprint basically, and that's where it seems like the magic is coming from. Roll. What are Kitas and Ivar doing?
I guess I'm gonna go look at that. You said there was the small, like, replica mist or whatever, or the futuristic mist.
Yeah, that's what's under the dome.
Okay.
That's inside this whole dome. Basically, you're looking at like a big snow globe almost, like a giant version of a snow globe with the city inside of it. Roll a perception, and roll it with advantage on Ivar. So as you're kind of taking stock of this, and this is a little bit awkward, like you're a little bit not excited, but you get some glee out of seeing snow, because you don't get to see snow very often. In the forests where you're from, it's not a common occurrence. So you kind of getting to see snow, falling inside of this thing. It's basically it's winter in mist right now. That's kind of why you guys were celebrating candle nights, even though you're up on the moon. But you don't get to see it very often, and you're kind of watching a city that is being snowed on, which is kind of a cool feeling. But as you're watching this, there's the smallest amount of movement out of the corner of your eye that kind of catches your glance, and you look over and see it, and just in time, you barely caught it in time, but just in time, you look over and see a pair of cockroaches inside the dome that ran around the corner. Kind of, you guys are in here, and there's kind of, they're safe inside there. They're not crystallized because this dome is, kind of keeping them from being crystallized. But there's a couple of cockroaches inside the dome that rushed around a corner, trying to hide from you.
Alrighty then.
What's Kitas doing?
If I go, I want to check out some of the pictures on the wall. You said there was like history of the city, of the pictures on the wall, right? Isn't that what you said?
They're not histories of the city. More specifically, they're histories of inventions of the Miller family, of Oliver, the guy who started all this, basically. The guy that you're presumably here to kind of rescue / get the ring from, or whatever. He doesn't have the ring, but anyways, something else took the ring from him. But Oliver is that guy, and the plaques that you're seeing in here, and the paintings that all have this kind of thin crystal sheen over them, are all explaining some of his family history, essentially. Not necessarily, who was the, father and mother of who, but you do see some, you see one here and there, basically, that show young Oliver with his dad and young Oliver with his mom. But there is a series of the ones that you're standing in front of are actually a series of elevators that were designed by his mom, his mother Maureen, and Maureen created essentially what became the modern elevator. And you see the first one, and the first one is literally like a tub, like a old style wash tub, with a rope and pulley system. And then you see the next one, which is kind of a boxed version to keep people from being able to tip over, and the rope is now attached to all four corners of this box to keep it from being able to rotate left or right. And then the next variation of it has chains, and then the next variation has these kind of leathered ropes that would not break. And then basically each one kind of an evolution of the one previous, until you get to kind of almost a modern style elevator, where it has the proper checks and balances basically to keep it from being able to fall, and is no longer being held by a person at the bottom and things like that. But anyways, you see this kind of evolution of them all attributed to Maureen, Oliver's mother.
Okay. And is any of the plaques anything, did it say anything important, or just for a description of what the picture is?
Pretty much that. Most of them are just kind of giving information about what the picture above it.
Okay.
As you guys are kind of looking around in here, though, a minute or so after you've kind of spent around and just looking around in this room, you hear Oliver pop up over the stones. He kind of groans in his nasally tone. He says, "That's my model of the future of mist. It's kind of spectacular, isn't it?"
I guess I've never seen the real mist.
He says,
I'm going to ask him, I'm going to ask him, what's this enter all about?
He kind of sighs, And then he says, well, all right, so maybe this wasn't, the greatest planning, but one of the power switches that I was talking about earlier, it's inside there, and if you could go in and turn it off, we can redirect more power to the thrusters and buy us some more time before this lab goes crashing into the moon. We're at about 60. Let's see, you go for the time of that fight, not that long. You guys are at about 65 minutes or so to go, so you have a little over an hour before this place would crash down. What he was telling you about earlier, by the way, is if you go in and turn off the power to certain rooms, it will add more time. So if you kind of don't screw things up and you make it through it, then you'd have a little extra time to kind of make it through to the end. Whereas if you screw up one room, then you're not necessarily automatically fucked if you have saved a couple of spots before. But anyways, what he's saying is inside there, and he didn't really elaborate on that yet for your specific question, but what he's saying is that inside there's a power switch that if you guys turn it off, you'll get some more power to the thrusters and maybe buy yourself a little more time.
Can I detect any deception in his voice?
Roll an insight check. You guys still hear the music okay? Or is it too quiet?
Still here.
Right.
Yeah, good.
You feel like he's being mostly truthful, but evasive. He avoided your question specifically. So, I mean, you could press him on it, you could ask him again or clarify or whatever, but, I mean, he doesn't, you don't get the impression that he's lying, more that he's being evasive.
Can I ask him a question?
Yeah.
If we shut the power off inside there, what happens to in there?
I mean, not much really. I mean, the lights will go out, and then, I mean, you'll have to make your way out, but other than that, I mean, it'll be dark, it'll be tough, it won't be, I'm not saying it'll be easy, it's not dangerous, it's just, you'll have to kind of walk down the street and make your way back out again, that's all. I mean, the lights in the room are going to go out, so, I mean, it'll be dark, but other than that, it's not a big deal. And using your earlier insight roll for that, I mean, we'll just continue it for that question too. Same thing, and this time he's not even being evasive, he's being truthful.
I'm going to speak up and remind Peter and Navarra that there was 2 regular-sized cockroaches in there, and if we're small, they're not going to be regular-sized to us anymore.
Okay, so you've obviously figured out what's going to happen if you press that enter button, but he says, cockroaches? What are you talking about? My lab's not dirty, I don't have any cockroaches.
Yeah, well, it's up to you guys, I don't care.
Technically, you didn't see the cockroaches, Navarra did, but still, that's fine.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then I guess.
And I specifically did put them in there. I'm glad you pieced that together, but yeah, that's it. I specifically put them in there because they would, you guys could just stomp on them. That's what you're thinking, but if you go in there, that does mean, presumably it means kind of shrinking down, and shrinking down means, being in a precarious position because those things would now be massive to you.
It's up to you guys.
Yeah, we got to go do it, man.
So it's up to you guys. Well, I won't tell you plenty. You guys have time right now. You don't have to do every single room. You don't have to do every single power switch, rather. But any ones you do will give you more time to kind of get things in order before either get this thing away or disable it or something before it could crash into the moon. So I didn't go over this too much either. The lab is falling towards the moon, but once the crystallized thing, if the virulent crystal then hits the moon, the whole moon would now be covered in crystal. And every time you expand this, every time you take one thing and make it bigger, and then that is also growing, it's not a duplicative growth, it's an exponential growth. As soon as you have that much mass of the moon, which is now, so much more mass than the lab, and the moon is now covered in crystal, the moon is going to start falling towards the planet because it's too heavy. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just a matter of, let's get everybody off the moon base, because the moon would then just crash into the planet and kill everybody there.
Well, alright. I say let's go for it. Slocko says let's go for it, and what do you think, honey?
Alright. First, how do we get out
Yes.
once we're in there?
Are you asking Oliver?
Yes.
He says, well, I mean, so to get in, I mean, you guys have probably figured that out, but there's that little, the rune on the side. You just put your hand on that, and you'll shrink down. You'll go inside. and you'll be down on the streets, you know, the same as if it was your, you know, normal height. I mean, I love going to that place. It's so much fun. I mean, especially when it's snowing, it's just incredible walking around in this place, almost like it's, you know, outside. It's almost like I could create any kind of and he just starts rambling on about totally unimportant bullshit, and the clock is ticking. It's now down to 63 minutes. And so you almost have to like kind of interrupt him to get him back on track. But he basically says, well, I mean, you'll go in and then you got to go down a couple blocks and then to the left, and there's a, you know, I made it as if it's a power plant, but it's really not. There's just a switch on the wall. You go over it and you'll pull the switch down, and the power will go out, and you'll just walk your way back out. And as he's describing this, you look down below where the symbol is, where the enter symbol is. And Peter, you were already over there looking at it. So you kind of just look down at the floor, and down on the floor, sure enough, there's a tiny little door. It's only about 2.5 inches tall, but there's a tiny little door, just a regular, you know, door, just made real small. That presumably that's where the roaches got in and out of there. But you know, you see this tiny door. Maybe when you press that, you're gonna come in and out of that door.
So when we walk out of that door, we will then get big? Or is there something else we have to do to make ourselves big again?
You're asking Oliver?
Yes.
He says, well, so remember how I said that, you know, probably wasn't the best design to put the power in there? Well, that's kind of the problem. If you guys turn the power off and then you walk out, you're still going to be small. And I don't really know what to do about that.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to be small.
Is smashing this thing an option?
Yeah. What about that?
That's up to you guys. I don't tell you what you can and can't do. You tell me what you're gonna do, and I dictate the results. That's how this works.
Yeah, see if one of you guys can smash this
that the
thing.
cockroaches will be easier to deal with if they're regular size.
It's true. Well, yeah. What do you think? You want to try to smash on the glass real quick?
I say try that, because if you smash the power button too, that'll also help.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this,
Maybe we
guys.
can open it up.
My dogs are barking. They need to go outside. They've been locked up for most of the day while I was working, so let's take a quick break. And if you guys want to smash it when we get back, we'll do that. What time did we actually get started? Was it like 5:45-ish?
I think so.
Like 5:35, 5:40.
Okay. All right, dudes, let's take a quick break, and then we will pick up where we left off.
Cool.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right.
I'm back on, guys.
Yep.
When do you want to start the carne asada?
I guess probably when we're done playing.
Okay, I'm back. How many you guys are?
Yep,
Yeah.
I'm back on.
Cool. Whoops. I did not have that on repeat for the break theme. Esther chewed a fucking speaker wire. I'm fucking pissed. She hasn't chewed anything since she was probably 6 months old, but I left her locked up too long and should have had her in her box. So now I gotta rerun a new speaker wire. I should have had it in the wall already anyway, so my own fault. Alright. Back where we left off. Alright, what are we doing?
Try to give the dome a smash.
Well,
Sure.
elaborate. So, how so?
Alright, you still have your staff, right?
She's still showing
Yeah.
lead. Yeah. Actually, that lasts for 1 minute, so it would have fallen by now. But you could just recast it. It's a cantrip anyway.
You might want to. Could help.
Gonna shillelagh it.
I guess so.
All right.
Let's see. Alright, just hit the cast.
I don't have an object for it, but it's not going to be hard to hit. It's just going to be hard to hit it from an angle that is going to be impactful. Because a dome is really about the most, well, an arch or a dome is about the most structurally sound shape that you can have. So, you know, I guess give me more information. How are you trying to hit this?
I guess just from the top, try to smash it in.
Okay. That's a noisier dog than mine.
Yeah, she is really noisy.
All right, go ahead and just roll the cast on it, but you're gonna need to roll pretty high to really make any significance. Yeah, you swing and your stick kind of smacks it, and there's just a thorn basically in the inside of it that looks like maybe that could have got through a little bit, but otherwise it just kind of swings right off of it. Doesn't seem like it really had any impact. It doesn't look like the glass has been dinged up or anything. I mean, you get
Can
the
I,
impression from looking at it that it really wasn't intended to be broken easily. It doesn't mean that it couldn't be, but, you know, swinging at it like that probably would take you quite a while, and you don't live forever.
Can I ask Oliver, if I shut down that button inside there, how much time would that buy us? Is this even worth it?
He says, it's hard to say. I mean, I'd probably get, you know, that room doesn't have a ton of power to it, but I'd probably get an extra, you know, 5, 10, probably 10's probably on the outside. Let's call it probably maybe between 5 and 7 minutes of extra thruster time.
Ah, it's not worth it then.
Maybe we're losing time here anyway. Just
Yep,
trying
move
to
on.
think of a plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
Carry on.
what are you guys doing?
Okay. Look around and see if there's any. So there's nothing else in the room except for just the dome, you said, right? And the paintings and stuff. Nothing else of a significance. If I
Not
look
anything,
around.
yeah, nothing else that you've noticed, yeah.
Okay. Is there any other exits besides the one that we came in?
There's the one that, yeah, Peter just moved over towards another door
All right.
with Toki right behind him.
Can I see if that door is unlocked and if we can get in there?
It has a similar rune beside it that says open, and it's a sliding door. There's no doorknob. It isn't open currently, it is closed currently.
Can we detect anything behind the door? Hear for anything? See if it's dangerous?
Roll, roll perception. Are you putting your ear to the door to listen?
Yeah, that's all we can do. We can't see through it. There's no window, I assume.
Correct. Yeah, you put your ear up to it, and you're hearing electrical sounding clicks and whirs coming from the inside of it. Maybe mechanical sounding, but you're not hearing movement, really. And then more of the kind of constant creaking of this place kind of crushing itself.
You guys want to roll in?
Let's do it. I'm gonna recast False Life for myself,
Okay.
and then yeah. Will the door open if I just try to open it without, you know, smashing or shoving? Does it open normally?
You
At
gotta
least
put your
enough for us to sneak
you
through
gotta
like
put your
last time.
hand on the thing.
Yeah.
All right, so you go up to it, you put your hand on it, and it starts to have that same kind of crunching sound, really, of the door trying to open. It seems like there's a lot of resistance on the inside of this. Roll a dex save. Just on Ketis, nobody else needs to.
False.
As the door is trying to crunch itself open, it's sliding towards you, basically. So where you're standing, the door would end up being in the wall directly in front of you. It would slide that direction. So as it's sliding towards you, it's crunching crystals right in front of your face. And these crystals, as they are kind of burst open, as they're being ripped open and crushed and pulled every which direction, this puff of this stuff is just getting closer and closer in your face. It's like if you didn't have that suit over the front of you, you'd be breathing this in, and as soon as you did, you'd be toast. But where your hand, the biggest issue is that your hand is on the wall. Your hand is touching that, which means that the surrounding field around you is flattened against this wall, which means that nullification of transmutation is not holding it there. It's not as powerful there. And you, at first, you don't feel anything, but when you pull your hand away, you have just the slightest sensation like you've got the tiniest little sliver in your hand.
Okay.
And you pull your hand away and look at it. You don't see anything at first. So I mean, just keep that in mind. You felt that, a tiny little pinprick, basically like a sliver. And you pulled your hand away. The door is opening, though. It does similarly. It gets probably about 3/4 of the way this time, but is now kind of stuck there and isn't opening any further. But you can see in, and there is enough room for you guys to get through.
Okay.
Let's travel in.
You haven't revealed it yet.
Okay. All right. So you guys, you pass in through that door. Sorry. still? Good. I was afraid if I revealed too much at once that it would crash. It crashed on me once earlier when I tried to reveal most of the map. All right. Yeah, so that door opens. You guys kind of pass into this room. You see this chamber appears to be some kind of classroom or training room, and it's been lightly burned and blackened. Like there's just a little bit of soot covering everything, like some kind of a flash fire. There's 2 consoles that align the walls with 2 chairs at each. On the remaining wall, a mechanical humanoid form that resembles a childlike robot is built into a screen-like box on the wall there. Above the robot is a glowing sign that lights up as you enter. It reads Lil Genius Buddy Bot in simple block letters. The bot and the chairs all have a thin layer of soot covering them, though. Here it says, not that that matters, but there you go. That's what's on the sign above the that frame, basically on the southeast wall there. That frame, inside of it is like kind of a small mechanized robot. It's only basically the torso and the arms and the head, and it looks like it'll light up or something to that effect. But basically, as you guys, you're all stepping in. Kita's coming through the wall too. Looking at your hand, it's not looking good. Are you saying anything to anybody?
Yeah, well, I guess I'm gonna show them. Hey guys, check this out. Like that thing got my hand. I felt a little break when I touched the rune on the wall.
Can I do a check on it of some sort just to kind of feel it out?
Let's see, what kind? I mean, are you talking magic of some kind, or just a skill like a medicine or something?
I was thinking if there's some medicine. Is there something that can be done right now to just either take it out or stop it, or?
Go ahead and roll. First, let's roll an investigation check to get what your thoughts on it are, and then maybe we'll proceed with a medicine check. Yeah, with that roll, you look at it. So Ketis, you kind of hold your hand out there, and Peter's kind of looking at it closely with some kind of field medic kind of experience that he'd had in the past. Looking it over, it definitely, to Peter, it looks like a sliver of this crystal, and it's the sliver is imperceptibly tiny, but it's crystalline, so it's almost clear. Like it's there, but it's almost clear. Like it's really hard to see. You kind of have to rotate his hand a little bit to get it to catch the light just right to be able to see it. But you see that the hand. Right, it's right in the center of the palm, and right surrounding it is slowly starting to expand until it's becoming visible now, where it's where the skin is starting to turn pink surrounding it. So what are you gonna do?
We could probably use I'm thinking mage hand to extract it out, kind of like I assume it's kind of like a splinter.
It's basically splinter, yeah. That's what it looks like. For Ketis, Ben, where the handprint was, it probably would have been right hand. So that was your right hand that you would have used to press the thing, you think?
Yeah, if it was right-handed, I probably would have.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so then you're holding your right hand out there, which, I mean, depending on how these rolls go, you may not have a right hand anymore. You realize that, right?
Well, that's not good.
Especially for, using it for a sword arm, but...
We might have to call you Chubbs.
Was that it wasn't the was that the one from the Adam Sandler movie, the guy that lost his arm in that, or was it the guy from Vice City?
Yeah, it was from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. It was the Adam Sandler one. Not Vice City, Miami Vice was the other one I was thinking of. I think that was Tubbs though, or something like that. All right, so Mage Hand isn't super dexterous, so I would say this is difficult to do. I think I would normally apply disadvantage on the roll, except that, having a lot of expertise and kind of being used to using Mage Hand a lot, you've probably kind of built up a certain affinity for how to use it in a careful way. So I say no disadvantage, but just a flat roll of a medicine check, which you do have proficiency in, thankfully. So just a flat roll of your medicine.
All right, what do you think, Ketis? Do it?
Yeah, I'll give it a try.
You're standing there. you're kind of, carefully looking at his hand, and then your right hand, the one that you're going to use for this mimicry for your mage hand. You're standing at a distance there, your right hand maybe a foot or two back from his, and kind of puppeting the motion basically, as if you were using that same motion for that hand that is now invisible and floating in front of you, or barely visible rather. And you see you're trying to kind of pinch down on it like you would just your fingernails, but a mage hand doesn't have a lot for fingernails. There isn't a lot there to really try to make this kind of an extraction attempt. So you try it, and you're not getting it. Like you keep trying to pinch at it and miss and miss and miss and miss. You keep kind of pinching and then pulling the hand away, and it's still there. You move it back in, pinch it together, pull the hand away, it's still there. You try it over and over and over again, and finally you go in again and pinch down, and you feel something. It's imperceptible. It's well, not imperceptible, but almost. And you pull it away, and Ketis, you actually feel like a pebble almost has been pulled away from your hand, like something that actually had some weight to it, despite this not being visible to you. But it feel like something has been pulled away, and with your mage hand, you kind of flick your fingers to kind of flick it off in the distance to just get it away from you guys with this tiny little almost invisible splinter that had been jabbed into his hand. You look down, and there's still a small pink kind of circle in the center of his hand, but you're kind of just standing there, just staring at it for a good solid minute or so, just making sure that it isn't spreading, and does not appear to be, at least so far. But that doesn't mean that he's he's free. It could still expand, but at least for what you're looking at right now, it doesn't look like it's expanded, and you've gotten the splinter out.
Sweet.
You barely beat it, by the way. The DC was a 10 to get it out, and because you're standing there carefully doing this over and over again, it's not basically, if this was in the middle of a fight, you'd be fucked. But because you could kind of stand there and try over and over again, basically you rolled a 12. You rolled a 5, 7 with his proficiency makes it a 12. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
And I'll say thank you to him. Saving my hand.
well, let's not
We
say
need a
that.
sword hand.
Yeah, well, attempting to at least.
It's
All right,
all
so-
in the hips.
Yeah, mage hand work is all in the hips. All right, so but as you guys have kind of done this, you were not really paying too much attention to the door behind you as you were kind of doing this. I mean, you heard it, but you were really focused on not losing your hand. But the door closed when you guys entered, and it kind of had that same kind of crunching sound, a little easier this time because now it was kind of going into a space that had been previously empty. But the door closed behind you, and then after you guys are kind of doing this over and over again, 30 seconds into that process, basically, you see the room actually lights up. It had been pretty dark in here previously, but the lights over the console on the wall there light up, and you hear, "Hello there, my name is Hodgepodge. Are you kids ready to learn?"
No.
And theme music plays. And then the bot says, "Please say your names."
Keith.
Peter.
Never.
It
It's
says,
quiz time.
Peter, Ketis, Nivara, welcome. Thank you for playing. Are you excited to learn?
Always.
You get the impression it doesn't have a lot of automation to it. It's basically sitting there prompting for results. So it doesn't move further in its little script until you say something, because it just sits there frozen. Like, it's animated and its eyes are lit up and everything, but it doesn't do anything until you respond, until you put in some input, and then it responds to the input. It says, "Please select a difficulty setting: child, adult, or master."
I'm saying child, but
It
You guys
says,
are
and it
smarter than me,
responded
so.
because you spoke. It responded to that. It said, "Child accepted. Child mode activated." You hear Oliver pipe up over the stones, though. He says, "Oh, okay. Oh, okay. That's right. Well, I mean, we had. All right, shit. This might be tough for you guys, even on child mode. We had this room. It was still in R&D mode. We were doing some stress tests just to make him, good before we released him as a commercial product, so that he can stand up to, enormous amounts of pressure and the kind of things that a kid would, do to him, like, put him in an oven when we didn't want him to, like, break him and things like that. So he's going to be a pretty expensive toy. So the room has some stress testing capabilities, but just like, don't go poking around into the walls and you'll be fine. I mean, just if you can actually run through his program, though, you'll be able to shut him down, and I'll be able to remotely turn off that room. So I guess get to work. Do you guys respond at all? Because he's still just sitting there waiting for you guys to say something.
All right.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
what's the first question?
So that was Oliver telling you basically what this thing is. He was saying that if you can shut this one down, he does tell you, by the way, that this one gave you about 10 minutes, which really okay. So the other thing too, these rooms have been mostly locked off. So because of the arcane structure of this, he was trying to basically have all these bulkheads in place so that the crystals couldn't spread any further. So it isn't free run. Some of the rooms you may have to be able to get through to be able to get the door to open. But if you can get through this one and turn the power off for it, then you would buy yourself a lot of time. But this one, it looks like you kind of have to get through it anyways. So anyways, when you guys, respond to that, you're responding to Oliver technically, but the robot doesn't know any different. It's not even really a full robot as much as it is just a simple automaton that's responding to vocal inputs. But it says, please select a category, kids. And it says, resuming episode. And then it says, the remaining categories are magic, spelling, and problem solving.
What do you guys think? Magic? You guys have
I'm
magic?
down for magic.
Sure.
I got magic too.
It says, child mode, magic category. And then it waits a second and it says, name a spell.
Magic missile.
Okay. Charm person?
You don't all have to, it's one response for the whole thing. Everybody doesn't have to make an individual response. So as soon as magic missile is said, it says, that's right, ding, 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 and you hear like a kind of a congratulatory sound. It says, that's a spell. And then it sits still for a second, and then there's a different voice that comes out of it, a deeper voice, one that sounds dissatisfied and angry, and it says, discrepancy detected, error detected, please wait. Biometric scans show the three of you are not children. Difficulty setting changed to master.
Damn.
And then it returns back to the kind of cheery voice. It says, resuming episode. The remaining categories are magic, spelling, and problem solving.
Wanted magic again.
Sure.
Sure.
It sits quiet for a second, like it has to bring up this information before it can really give you guys information. It sounds like it has to process, and it doesn't necessarily have this information readily available. Like it's I don't know how to describe it, I guess, to you guys. Like, it has to research the information before it can give it to you. It doesn't know the information. Like, there's a limit to the amount of information that it can contain, if that makes sense. But what it asks is, what are the components required for the absorbed elements spell?
We just say it.
It responds to you guys speaking.
All right.
Becky has it.
Speech.
So Peter would know better. If you're looking in your thing and you're seeing S, is that what you're going off of? Is it says S?
Yeah.
Okay, the S is actually somatic.
Oh, somatic.
V,
My apologies.
V would be verbal. S is somatic, but Peter would know that, so he wouldn't have said speech. You know what I mean? That's just Sako not being too familiar with the new rules. No big deal. But so we can, if you prefer, assuming that you would, Peter would have said somatic means hand motions. Is that what you would have done?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
It goes do 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 ding. it says, congratulations, that answer is correct. And it says, the remaining categories are spelling and problem solving. And you note it, by the way, that it did twice say that it was resuming episode as if somebody has already tried, or maybe this is a halfway through session or something like that. But those are the only 2 remaining categories. There may have been others, but somebody came through here already, is what it sounds like.
Spelling.
Okay.
That works.
It says, and it takes a minute again. It takes, a good solid, probably 15, 20 seconds or so for it to come up with the question. It says, spelling, master level. Please spell the name of the avian people of the Finley hinterlands, the Aarakocra. And the Aarakocra, when it says it, sounds very roboticized, like Aarakocra. So whoever's going to take a shot at it, it's going to take the first answer it hears, so...
Damn it. Let's see.
And you guys can, ask it questions and stuff, too. It does respond to you. It won't just assume that the first thing you say is the answer, necessarily. Or you can talk to Ango, you can talk to Oliver. You're not just necessarily stuck here, but, you do essentially have to solve its problems before you can get out. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to get them all right.
So we get to pretty much use the stone, the earpiece, then.
Let's see if Ango can give us an assist.
Alright, so what are you doing?
Ask Ango if he happens to know anything about the Aarakocra, anyway, if he knows how to spell it by chance, or anything
you hear-
about him.
Sure. You hear his cheery voice pop up over the stones. He says, "The Aarakocra, oh, those are so incredible. I've always wanted to meet one. They're just, they can fly. Who doesn't want to fly? I'm so low to the ground. Even standing as tall as you guys would be great, but being able to fly." And he's kind of rambling on for a second, almost similar to the way that Oliver did when he was talking about his little miniature city. But he says that's an easy one though. It is, and you kind of hold the stone out a little ways. You pull it out of your ear and hold the stone out a little ways just to you know what? Actually, never mind. You're only hearing it in your ear, so it wouldn't work that way. You'd have to parrot it back. But he tells you it's Aarakocra, and he reads that off to you. So do you say that out loud to the machine?
Yeah.
It kind of is still for a second. It's as it's kind of processing the answer. Hang on 1 second. Sorry, work. But yeah, anyways, Angle says, yeah, I'd love to help, and he kind of reads that off to you, and you parrot it back to him. The machine kind of sits there for silent for a second, and then it says, dee, and the kind of congratulatory tone again, and then before he can say, its little spiel about being the correct answer, it says, it goes back into that deep kind of angry voice again, and it says, external communication detected. The 3 of you aren't cheating, are you?
Yeah. No.
No.
You see the eyebrows, the kind of LED eyebrows of this thing kind of settle down in a kind of an angry tone. And then the room starts to dim a little bit, and you see that the walls are beginning to crackle a little. Like there's just this very faint amount of electricity traveling through the walls. And Ango on the other side of the thing is going, guys, you're turning it. I can't hear. And then it just cuts out, and you don't hear him anymore. You're in a Faraday cage.
Damn it.
And Hodgepodge, the robot, says, "So you guys weren't cheating then, are you?"
We just say no.
It doesn't respond any further. It just repeats the question then. which, I mean, you guys already technically got the spelling, so you'd have to parrot it back. What was the spelling?
Oh, fucking damn it.
It's waiting for a prompt of some kind, presumably the spelling of that word that it gave you.
I thought we had it. I didn't write that down.
Dang it, I was going to, but you went really fast.
Do this. What we'll do is we'll call it a wisdom. We'll call it a wisdom check, because wisdom is essentially memory. So all three of you roll a wisdom check. And beat a 15 to see if you beat a 14 to see if you remember it. We'll just, if you beat that, we'll just hand wave that you remembered it. Otherwise, it'll count as a question you got wrong. Oh, you guys got lucky there. Because Ben, you rolled a 2, Sako, you rolled a 3, and Navarre rolled an 18. So
I actually do remember some of it. There was 2 A's and an R at the beginning, and the end had a QUE.
no, it was OCR. Well, yeah, you didn't have that part, but it was Aarakocra. It's AA. This is you parroting it back to the robot. It's AARAKOCRA. Aarakocra.
Sorry, I thought you said Q.
Over the audio, obviously, that could have been tougher anyways, but you parrot it back to him, and he goes, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, ding, and it says, you are correct. And it says, the two remaining categories are magic and problem solving. It actually did have one more magic question. So.
Oh, okay.
But you only need to do one of those. So, actually, no, sorry. Never mind. The magic one is already gone because you already did that, sorry. The remaining category is problem solving. And then it goes straight into it. It says, problem solving, master level selected. 3 houses occupy a lonely village in the wilderness. 1 house is red, 1 house is yellow, and the other is blue. The 3 houses are occupied by 3 beings, a dwarf, an elf, and a human. One of these 3 owns the sharpest axe in the land, another the most balanced sword in the land, and another the heaviest hammer in the land. Using these following clues, please tell me the color of each house from left to right, the occupants of each house, and the weapons of each person. Your clues are, the dwarf and the elf hate each other and refuse to be neighbors. The human lives in a blue house, the elf does not use swords, the yellow house contains the hammer, and the human lives to the left of the dwarf. The red house is on the far left. What is your answer? Here, I'll put these in there for you. That's what he said. Now, you remember, you can still talk to it. You can't get external communication now because you cheated. But you can still talk to it and try to, reason with it or whatever else. You can still ask it questions and everything, and presumably it will respond to those. It won't just assume that the first thing you say is your answer necessarily.
I'm reading through it right now.
Sure. Remember, too, that the clock is ticking the whole time you're in here also. You're it.
Okay.
By the time you've been in here for this amount of time that you've been talking to him, you're probably at about 58 minutes or so. So just under an hour to go.
Okay.
Like after the time of trying to pick the thing out of your hand and all that stuff.
Thought I just had it. Got to restart.
It's not an easy one for sure.
Okay, I think I got it. Wait. Okay, yeah, I think I got it.
Okay.
Alright, so does he just want like the what order they're in?
Yeah, you
Right.
gotta read him. You gotta read him the order of the houses, and then the order of the people that live in the houses, and then the order of the weapons that those people have.
Okay, so it's the red house, the blue house, and the yellow house.
It goes
And
do-do-do-do-do, ding.
so then it's the dwarf in the red house with the axe? Yeah, the axe.
It goes do-dum.
I think I got it. Are we able to answer again?
Let her finish, and then if you know, go through the rest. Well, actually, that would mean you have at least 2 things wrong, because if you have one of those wrong, then obviously the where the correct one is would also be wrong. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So you have enough chances that you guys don't need to worry about like getting it wrong and it getting mad or all of a sudden. So Becky, go back and see if you figure out where that was wrong, and then Sako can give it a try. So what's Peter saying? It says try again.
All right, the far left house is a red house with an elf and an axe.
Okay. He goes do 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 ding.
Middle house is a blue house with a human and a sword.
He goes do 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 ding.
And far right is the yellow house with the hammer and the dwarf.
Do 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 ding. It says, congratulations, the 3 of you might just become geniuses after all, like me, your buddy Hodgepodge. And then you hear another kind of a fanfare, kind of a doo-doo-doo-doo, as it's another, like you've moved on to another round. It says, it's time for the bonus round. Are you excited?
Damn right.
Akitas is kind of just still staring at his hand, like not really participating too much in the problem solving.
Yep.
It says, the bonus round is called Stumped Hodgepodge. Can you 3 come up with a question that can stump your buddy or your buddy bot Hodgepodge? I'll warn you, I possess an almanac of complete world knowledge.
Have you ever been in love?
That is an abstract question. I'm a robot, but understanding if your inference was what is love, I do understand it's a chemical imbalance in the brain. Try again.
I think. Can I just ask him a question?
Sure.
How do you make a married bachelor?
That question is an oxymoron and does not exist. Try again. He repeats, I possess an almanac of complete world knowledge. Anything that's known in the world, he's going to know. You could ask him, the plot of the 3rd episode of the 4th season of Mork and Mindy, and he's going to know it.
What is the director's name?
He's kind of just sitting there, just dormant, like the way that he, has been kind of silent for a second as he's processing an answer. And you hear the servos inside of him that have kind of spun up when he's beginning to move. They kind of spin up inside of him like there's just kind of, they've been audible this whole time, but they're just spinning up real fast. And he says, "Bzzz, I do not understand. Bzzz, I do not understand. Bzzz, I do not understand. I do not understand." And he's just repeating this inaudibly over and over and over again until it just begins to break down and crash. And the thing just doesn't move. It doesn't explode. Nothing breaks. It just, the lights are all flickering in random directions. Kind of Christmas lights up and just stops moving. It doesn't respond.
Can we verify things have been shut down?
You look around the room and you can see that the kind of electrical almost interference that was blocking the walls has kind of begun to fade away, in that there's no more electricity basically going through them. You almost immediately hear the director calling out over the loudspeaker. First, before I actually proceed into that, you guys understand what happened there, right?
Yeah, that wouldn't know anything about the college because the college doesn't really technically exist on Earth.
Exactly. All right. So yeah, asking a question that was removed by the Dellens cap was the way to get through that. I mean, you could have assumed there's plenty of other ways, but that was, the question to answer to his little bonus round. But anyways, so that goes through the earpiece lights up again, and you start hearing the director panicking, saying, "Ketis, Navarra, Peter, you just respond. Are you guys there? Are you there? Respond. I need somebody. Come on."
What's going on? We're here.
Yeah, we're here.
And you hear the faintest sigh of relief from her, but almost immediately, like before you can really, before she could proceed, you hear Ango speaking over her, and he's like in tears. You can hear him like panicking and freaking out in tears, like, "I was trying to help, guys. I'm so sorry. Oh God, I was just trying to help. I knew it was wrong. I knew we shouldn't cheat, but I was just trying to help. I didn't mean to." And he's just, just like sobbing to himself at this, like panicking, thinking he, got you guys hurt or killed. And the director speaks up, saying that, "Oh, Edge, like we thought you were killed. It cut off. We didn't know what happened. Like, what happened in there? You guys okay?"
Just had to solve a couple of questions. That was about it.
And as you guys are having this kind of quick conversation, she give a little sigh of relief there, of course, but you look behind the where the little buddy bot has kind of shut itself down. And just behind it, you see a tiny little, this one very, very small, a tiny little ring of light, only about half an inch across, opens up behind the buddy bot there, and the room starts to fill up with those kind of crinkling, tinkling sounds again, that kind of that musical noise in the background that slowly keeps kind of escalating and escalating and escalating, getting louder and louder and just ringing throughout this room until the voice finally begins again and it sings another verse of that song you heard earlier.
All right, so another one of those
Hush.
breaks like the.
I saw beyond the universe, far past the places we should see. But for my vision I was cursed, torn from my home and family, lost to my crystal kingdom.
You hear, that ring out, and then the crystals that are surrounding you. This room isn't fully crystallized, but there's still enough of it in here, that sheen that's covering everything, that you heard it kind of ringing out through all of those. And that is where we're going to end tonight's session. I'll put what was said, what the lyrics were to that basically in the chat here, so you guys can take notes if you want to. But otherwise, that is where we'll end tonight's session. There was a little more. I just didn't have enough time to finish it yet, so we'll resume where we left off next week.
Okay.
All right, that works. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Good.
Give me 1 second, I'm typing that up for you. Pardon if I have typos in there. There you go. right, dudes. That was fun. I had a good time with that session. Hope you guys
Yeah.
did. All right.
good.
Next week, I should be fine for the 18th. Sako, Monday's generally a little harder for you, right?
Yeah, Saturdays and Sundays are best, but I can do Mondays every now and then. Just depends on work.
Okay. Let's plan for the 18th, which is next Sunday. And I will try to get more prep. Usually, as long as I can get some prep done on Wednesdays and then finish it on Saturdays, then Sundays are usually fine. So we'll aim for that. All right, guys. We will stop it there.